All right, we are live. Hello, YouTube. Welcome to episode 160 of our roundtable of Dark Tower Palaver. Good round number. I always love hitting those round numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're here for 160. We got a couple big things to hit. We're gonna do unveil the March Insanity, both the brackets for the kickoff next month, which will be coming very quickly because this is one of those really short months. So we have those two brackets we're gonna unveil, and then we're gonna go through our top 10 King novels. We haven't done that in a couple years. There's been a few novels that have come out since, but also I threw the caveat that you couldn't lump the Dark Tower into one.
Gotta break them up.
Because that's a cheat that we've used for a long time around these parts. So, time to...
it's one connected story. We don't have to break them up. And then Tad said, enough.
Yeah, indeed. So, let's go ahead and hit the intro and get the podcast side started, because we're just talking to YouTube right now. Let's do that and get going.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own Palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland, to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the Palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, the Dark Tower series, and the extended Stephen King universe, of course. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for episode 160, or roundtable 160, I should say.
You definitely need to say the extended King universe, especially with what we're talking about today.
Yeah, indeed. Although, I don't know, I still think the Dark Tower is pretty central to the list, since we're not letting it be in one
just
little
one
spot. Yeah. Which we've done. We were just talking about this on the YouTube side, but we could say it for the podcast side. The two things we're doing is we're unveiling the March Insanity brackets. Remember, there are two this year. And then we are also going to go through and do our top 10 King novel or books, not novels, because I did say books, so I wanted to keep that flexibility. If you wanted to do a collection of short stories or whatever, you certainly can pick those. But we've done that in the past, but I think a lot of us have the caveat that any list we make like this is good for us for about right now. Maybe not even good by the end of the episode because our minds change all the time. But also new books have come out. I feel like we haven't done this in a good while. So there's been a few new books that have come out. So, and then on top of that, I wanted to, make everyone mad and say that we couldn't clump the Dark Tower into one single entry. So, so that's
Ted just likes pissing people off. That's what he does for a living.
That's what is on the docket. Because both of those two things are so big, there really isn't as much that I'm really going to dive into. Also, we just had a roundtable not too long, or 2 weeks ago. So I can't say there's like an overwhelming amount of news anyway, but I honestly mostly skipped even going through my emails. There was a couple big things that I wanted to cover, but outside of that, we are going to just zip through that and get on over into the main topics here. What am I missing?
Brocky said that he finished Midnight Mass last night and can't wait to see what he does with Dark Tower.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Agamorphy says, I've never considered a top 10 novel list before. Now I know my top two up front. I wouldn't have been able to do so 10 years ago. It will take some thinking. And then he does the emoji.
Indeed. Midnight Mass. It's one of the greatest Stephen King works that has nothing to do with Stephen King.
Absolutely.
Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, it's right up there with, I think it would be the conversation would have to be had as Stephen King works that isn't Stephen King would be Stranger Things and Midnight Mass. I think it's those two.
Yeah.
Are Stephen King to the core.
I mean, I know that Flanagan's first major movie, Oculus, was basically kind of a riff on 1408 because he was trying to get the rights to that. He was an unknown filmmaker, couldn't get it, so he's like, fuck it, I'll just make a movie that essentially has that in mind.
Yeah.
So there are things like that are certainly like close, but like, yeah. You look at the Stranger Things, and you look at, and I think even Stranger Things, there's like elements of Stephen King in the DNA, but I think that especially as the show went, I think it kind of grew away from the Stephen King realm in some ways. Whereas like Midnight Mass, from beginning to end, like I had to keep stopping myself the first time I watched it and telling myself like, "Hey, this is not a Stephen King.
This is not Salem's Lot, reimagined or something."
Yeah, because it just everything about it felt like King. The small town, it's up in the New England area.
Religious lady that makes me want to punch something.
Yeah. I mean, you got vampires. Yeah, there's just so many. It's just so Kingian.
Yeah.
I think the only other time that I've ever had that where I had to keep stopping myself and reminding me was when I read Nosferatu.
You're like, this is not Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Well, no, because it's like this isn't Stephen King.
Oh, this isn't King. Oh,
especially because there's a Dark Tower reference or two in there. So
is there really?
You read Nosferatu, didn't you?
No, I've read Bram Stoker's Dracula. I've never read Nosferatu.
No, Nosferatu, the Joe Hill book.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking like actual Nosferatu.
No.
I didn't realize it was based off of a novel.
No. I should have specified. Yeah, because Nosferatu was just a film. It was never a book.
Okay. That's what
the vampire.
That's what I was like.
No, Christmas Land.
Yeah,
and,
Christmas Land and what's his name?
Charlie Manx.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple Dark Tower references in there. So like, and then Joe Hill. It felt very Kingian as well, and I felt like there's a few times the things like, oh cool. A Dark Tower connection, and then like I would go a few paragraphs and stop and go, wait a minute, this isn't Stephen King.
Yeah.
So so that's great. I gotta, now that I've got Netflix back, I do have to probably go through and zip through all the Flanagan series that are out there. So let's go ahead and hit the intro stuff. We have tangented our way a little bit without the intro. First thing I want to do is warn you about spoilers. If you've not finished the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series, you may want to cry off this episode. Stick with our book clubs. That's where we stay where we're at or before we don't jump ahead, except for a very small and isolated section at the very end of every book club episode. But we warn you about that before we get into the spoiler section. So I would say 99% of those episodes are very safe for you, unless you are somehow behind us. But if you were that, I would hope that you only started the books like 6 months ago or less, because we are very slow with our book clubs. Then if you want to find us, you can find us on Apple Podcasting, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, or any podcasting service of your choice. If you want to subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those, we'd appreciate that. Then you can find us with the live streams. You can find old live streams if you want to watch the episodes and see the visuals and stuff, and see Peter recoiling at Ermot's explorations.
No.
If you want to see all that kind of stuff, you can do it over here at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver, as well as you can also join us during the live streams. We do it every fortnight. And generally the same time, but if you subscribe, rate, and review subscribe, ring the bell for notifications on YouTube, I know it will also show it to you in your time, like what it'll like when we go live or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it does adjust to your own time. So we always pretty much go at the same time. Although we probably do need to talk about maybe doing some oddball ones. I know we've done that in the past for European listeners specifically, and Australian. We got some Australian listeners as well. So we've done that in the past. I guess we haven't done that in a while, but maybe we have to look into that again, because it is very interesting trying to like basically cover a good chunk of the planet with a good time. So find it over here at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Then find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. You'll find all things Dark Tower Palaver there, including links to all of our particulars, as well as you'll find our March Insanity. If you go to darktowerpalaver.com/March Insanity, that'll bring you right to the hub of all things March Insanity. After this episode, I will be posting the brackets on there, and you'll be able to look at the brackets and get ready and maybe start planning your strategies for voting come March 1st.
Yeah.
So, and then if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. With that, you get all the levels get access to our Discord server where you can chat with us and send us Ermont comments all throughout the week.
You just stop it.
Many days. The witch emoji, and then a snake emoji, and then a heart maybe.
No, see, if we're going to talk emojis, we're going to talk about Wrath in the chat right now, who just said Heil and a rose and a turtle.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
and then we got Brocky with the snake. I knew I could count on someone.
No.
You get access to that. You also get access to our. We have monthly hangouts where we do random things. Yesterday we did one for February, which was odd because it wasn't February yet.
It was the day before February.
Yeah, but with that we actually both of us watched for the first time.
First time me watching, yes.
Yeah, me too. 1922. And Peter has read it. I had not. So we both watched that, and then we kind of came together and talked about it. So you can find all that over at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. Yeah,
Just
Thomas Jane's incredible.
what the hell, man?
Yeah, and then also if you end up joining at the highest tier, you can actually co-host a show with us. So those are kind of your
The
benefits.
topic of your choice.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So if you want an Ermont episode, that is the way to do it.
Or if you want a discussion about how Flag is terrible,
Well, I mean, that would be a whole episode of lies.
It's not
and-
lies,
and
sir.
deception. And then if you want to contact us, Peter can let you know the ways to do that.
Best way to reach us is email. It's show@darktowerpalaver.com. And then we have our Threads, Instagram. It's the same thing, I guess. Just like the same username, I should say.
Yeah.
Dark Tower Palaver, all one word, no spaces. And then we got our Blue Sky. It's at darktowerpalaver.bsky.social. And then our Twitter is at darktowerpod. That's at darktowerpod. Our Facebook is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And then check out our merchandise. It's tpublic.com/user/darktowerpalaver. And just like Flag, you can get a hashtag Tad is terrible sticker, shirt,
Slander.
pillow, hat,
Or you,
wall art.
you can get a classic logo if you'd like.
No
as
such
well.
thing as classic.
If-
This is the classic.
if
This
you don't-
is the original logo.
If you don't want any slander involved.
No, it's not slander, sir. It's scientifically proven. So I think we should do an episode when it is 6 p.m. in Sydney. Just to make it nice for them. Have a nice after evening episode. We only have to record at midnight in order to do that.
Yeah, I know, and it's always because again you got England, or Europe, Western Europe, and then Australia on the opposite side. So it's like you got to cater to one. There's not like a perfect time
There is
for
not.
everyone.
There is not a good time to.
So, yeah. All right. So that is the announcements. So, like I said, I mentioned we don't have a ton of news, but we do have one that just broke in the last 24 hours or less.
Really?
Yeah. Very, very interesting. We have a new animal in Midworld.
Go on.
Stephen King on his threads on January 31st, 2025, posted looks like it's almost a dictionary entry that's plunja. It says, and then in parentheses, common noun, the largest bird of Midworld. Punjas are the size of pterodactyls. Billy Bumblers fearlessly attack them without fail.
Dude, I hope it's a lunja and the P is silent like pterodactyl.
Yeah, I get that's probably more likely.
I hope it's a lunja.
I mean, yeah, did King spell the pterodactyl wrong? Is there an E in pterodactyl? Or is it just PT?
I think it's supposed to be. Oh, that's a yeah.
Because I was thinking there, because if it's PET, then there's two silent letters in pterodactyls. So, but I don't know. That doesn't.
Yeah,
look
that's a typo.
Yeah, that doesn't look right to me. So,
Yeah.
Either way, I have to imagine
And
that.
I just want to appreciate that he has a Peter in his tweet.
What's that?
It's Peter at the start of pterodactyl.
So, what do you lunges?
Lunges.
Lunges. So, I can't imagine a pterodactyl-sized thing being attacked by a Billy Bumbler. I don't think that would work out too well. I mean, he doesn't necessarily say that Billy Bumblers are successful. He just says that they attack them without fail.
They're just like, rah.
Yes. So, I have to imagine that maybe this has to do with the Talisman 3 being written.
I mean, yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just very strange, man. King is acting very strangely with social media. We've never really had social media in the way that we have it now while he's been writing something like this. I mean, of course, he's had social media. He's written some books, but he's acting different. He's never just...
Well, they called that... I think we're going to talk about it, that he was just on the King cast,
Yeah,
right?
that's next
That
up.
is one of the... I'll save it for there, but he talks about stuff that he's writing, and they even talked about it there on the King cast, is that he doesn't do that. They're like, what are you working on? Oh. He's very close to the chest with that he doesn't want to talk about what he's writing. But, dude, he was so open on that episode that he's just like, this is what I'm writing.
And now he's dropping new things on us for Midworld.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's probably been since 2012 since we have had something new for
Yeah.
Midworld. And even we had some
Through the Keyhole.
There was some new stuff and went through the keyhole.
We got to see Garland for the first time.
And werewolves or beasties.
Shapeshifter.
Yeah. Gotta love that.
Not cool.
Yeah, gotta love adding that to the world. We still haven't seen those cats for book 2, though.
I want to see him.
That large cat. Well, we don't even know if it's large. We assume it's large.
Yeah, like they said, it could just be a loud voice.
Yeah, so...
Agamorphy in the chat says, a Peterdactyl.
Yeah. That's very, very interesting. Definitely going to have to keep an eye on King's social media as we move forward here, because seemingly he's just dropping new shit on social media. So
You're gonna have to let me know because again, head in the sand kind of thing.
yeah.
So. Baraki says will be interesting to see what the declassification of the JFK documents might have to reread 11/22/63.
Yes, and some of us that have been obsessed with that since being young children will be very happy to look at said documents.
When is that happening? Has it already happened?
The order for it gave a timeline. I think it's close to a month or something.
Oh, okay.
Take. So, yeah.
So in a month, you're just gonna disappear for a while on me, and I'm gonna have to come over and like kick down your door and drag you out into the sunlight to be like, Tad, you need vitamin D. Like, come on, man.
You know who I feel bad for?
Who?
Oliver Stone.
Oh, because he made the movie.
So not only did he make the movie, but a year or two ago, he actually made a documentary that was basically a follow-up on the film based on everything that we have come to learn since he made the film in the early 90s, which it's not like massive troves, but there's been a number of things that we've learned since that movie was made. And so it's kind of a follow-up, and it's like, and here we are a few years later, and now allegedly we're going to be getting all the files declassified. So it's like, man, is he going to have to go back and make another documentary now?
So wait, this is everything?
I mean, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah. We'll see. So
yeah. It comes out and it's just all blacked.
Yeah. I mean, it was supposed to originally have been released back in the 90s. I think late 90s is when it was originally supposed to be
presidents
declassified.
just keep pushing it back, right?
Yeah, it just keeps getting delayed. So I think last time it got delayed out until like 2050 or 2060. So like almost 100 years beyond the point. So and then obviously it got executive order to be released. So hopefully we'll get that released. And
Brocky says it will probably still be somewhat redacted.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely be watching.
The shooter was redacted.
Then everyone will start like looking at like the length of the redaction.
Okay,
it's like, hey, is that a long name,
nope,
a short name?
That's not Lee Harvey Oswald. That's too short. That kind of thing.
All right. So next up, we've got King on the King cast, as Peter mentioned. So he was he's been on the podcast once before, but this I believe was the way it kind of sounded. This is the first full episode since Scott Wampler passed away. And it's with Anthony Bresnikan. We've already talked about that he was joining as the new host. I think they had some guest host episodes, but this is the first full on proper episode since that, which was back in the summer. So
yeah.
I also had Peter listen to it.
Yep.
So that's generally not necessarily how we would do things. So, the first thing I wanted to point out personally that I wasn't necessarily freaking out as much, but the internet seemed to, is King saying that he's read what he's read of Flanagan's Dark Tower scripts is perfect. Like, the internet's kind of going wild. I haven't taken a deep dive into the emails because I knew we didn't really have time for a ton of news in this episode. But I've already just the notifications on my phone, seeing the headlines of like the Google alerts I'm getting sent.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of people are picking that up, and I'm like, it was like a single line, and like, honestly, are we surprised? Like, I guess I just assumed that it would be good because it's Flanagan.
Maybe I'm crazy because didn't we already know this?
What?
I swear that Flanagan said that he sent what he's worked on already to King, and King's giving him the thumbs up saying it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just like,
but King saying that it's perfect is, and I can see why people are taking
great versus perfect. Okay, I see what you're saying. Like people are freaking out over. I just was like,
yeah, But to me, I just assumed that it would be perfect anyway. Because Flanagan is Flanagan.
And King is. I hate to be like the naysayer here, but King has touted things that have not looked good. I mean,
yeah, I think generally here's the distinction I would make though is I feel like King will generally play nice during like the press tours and stuff, but this is far and away from the press tours. This is like being sold on something of like, hey, give me your thumbs up or thumbs down on if you want us to do this or not.
I've seen King talk about like screenplays and stuff like that, like, oh, so and so wrote this and it was fantastic, and then what we got is that's maybe I'm just a little jaded from the Dark Tower movie. You know?
That's the problem with film though, is it's probably one of the most collaborative things ever, because like you've got hundreds of people working together on something, and like I can't remember, there's a quote I saw once. It was like a film is made 3 times, once when it's written, once when it's directed, and once when it's edited. So it's like you've got 3 distinct times that a film is quote unquote made, and each time it could be kind of remade in a whole new way. Like a writer sees one thing, the director sees it different, shoots it that way. Chances are the director is still involved in the editing, but it's like the editor also has a say. So now it's being retold again. So it's like,
and you also have the horrible situation where sometimes executives get involved in the editing, and it's just
Yeah.
like, no, we wanted to do this with the ending, and it's like, no, Jake's supposed to die, and they're like, no, he can't die, and then you just go, you sons of bitches.
Yeah. I still always remember though, that Darabont was going to end Shawshank with just Red getting on the bus.
It's true.
That's so every once in a
The
while
studios sometimes do get it right.
once in a
Blue moon.
Yeah, a broken clock's right twice a day
Yeah.
type thing is probably more what it's like. But
Agamorphy says it's also telling though that he admitted that he kept mum when the adapted work wasn't that great. So.
yeah, because I'd say he does kind of when it's in the press tour, like he'll say certain things or whatever, and then he'll kind of just go silent on stuff. But I do think that because we talked about it with Welcome to Derry, I think it was last time, where like some people were kind of poo-pooing him being like positive about it or whatever. But it's like I think that again, there's a vast difference between almost in pre-production or even before pre-production when it comes to Dark Tower, talking good about what he's saying because he's not. That's not really. I don't see that as part of the press thing as much as it is just him being like, hey, what I'm reading is really good. But with that in mind, we also got to realize that there's going to be a couple more things. There's going to be a whole grinding machine that the thing's going to go through before it comes out as a final product. So God knows what happens to it, but at least in the written form, he's saying it is
because
perfect.
it also is a matter of which machine is it going to go through. Is it the Netflix machine or the Amazon machine or the Max machine or the Hulu machine? There's a lot of different machines, and they can turn out a lot of different things.
I will be shocked if it's not Amazon.
Yeah.
I've said it before. And I'll just say it again. Like, it's kind of their MO. They're kind of the one that's more heavily embraced sci-fi and fantasy. And then like with Fallout being such a success, post-apocalyptic added in there. Like, it just feels like each of the streamers kind of have a brand. And I get that like they'll do stuff outside of their brand because you want to be,
want to branch out.
You want to appeal to as broad of an audience as possible. But if you've got if you got a Trekkie, they've got to have Paramount Plus because everything Star Trek's on there. Every new Star Trek thing's on there. That's got to be one of the biggest drivers for Paramount Plus because it's like they know that's a big thing. But, so every person that's out there that loves post-apocalyptic or they love sci-fi or fantasy, Amazon wants those people to be like, well, I've got to have Amazon Prime because
that's where Wheel of Time is. That's where Lord of the Rings, Ring of Power is.
Yeah,
that's where Fallout is.
And I just feel like Dark Tower, I know it doesn't fit very well with any of those things.
But it fits with all of those things.
It fits with all of those things, yeah.
They talked about that on the Kingcast, too. It's just like, They've said the thing that we always have said. We don't know how to describe this series to someone. Talking about the Dark Tower. Like, is it sci-fi? Is it fantasy? Is it a western? Is it is it horror? And the correct answer, as always, is yes.
Well, there is a beast attacking a boy on a bridge, so it can be considered horror for sure. I love when you just sigh in defeat. Like it's just
because there's no convincing you. Like I know that Oi didn't attack Jake, but you're doing it just to get a rise out of me. So it's just like, and I can't not react because it's just so wrong that you accuse him of that.
Oh man!
Instead of focusing on the true evil of the story, like in your eye, it should be is Mordred, popping Flag's eyes out of his head, eating them like grapes.
And I think we can all agree that Mordred's the worst. Between whether it be killing Oi or killing Flag, like we all hate. That's like the one thing we can all unite for is hatred of Mordred.
It's the meme with the Arnold arm from Predator. It's
Yeah.
the Flag fans, Oi fans hating Mordred.
I will say when it comes to that scene from Predator, I can never see someone named Dylan and not think of that scene.
Dylan,
You son of a
you
bitch.
son of a bitch.
Okay. What? Let's see. Am I missing anything in the chat here? What do we got?
Brocky said, I can't remember an example off the top of my head, but I know I have read positive feedback from King regarding a writing adaptation, which I thought was very not good. But F has had a good run so far. Talking about Flanagan, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And then Agamorphy says, Amazon approached MF to reboot Carrie. Sounds like it's a goof, a proof of project for the future Dark Tower.
And that's what I said when it was first announced. Is like it kind of feels like, hey, show us, do this. Show us what you can do with the Stephen King property. And then
kind of like they do with like athletes when it's their contract year. It's like, all right, show me what you can do.
Yeah.
Okay, you did that. Here's how much you're going to make, kind of thing.
Now,
that's how much we think you're worth.
I haven't seen it necessarily reported on any major places yet, but there was some kind of scuttlebutt in some of the more of the King realm, more than like Deadline or anything like that. That the Flanagan Carey series might be filming in the summer.
Oh, this summer. All
yeah,
right.
So not necessarily part of what we're covering here. That hopefully it'll get full on confirmed, and we'll be covering it from like a major news place. But sounds like that it'll be filming very soon. So
Yeah.
And do you have anything else you want to? I have other notes here, but I don't want
go
to
ahead.
just roll through all mine because you
No, go
listened to
ahead.
it as well. In regard to Talisman 3, he talked about using Peter Straub's language. Not that we doubted, but that confirms that he's full on writing. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that was a thing I kind of Leo memed it a little bit and pointed at my stereo when I was like listening, because it was like I feel like up to this point King's been very cagey about is he actually full on writing,
Right.
And so for him to say like, hey, I'm using
Yeah.
Straub's adjectives and stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, you're basically confirming without confirming that you are like actively writing this project. So,
And then later in the episode, they talk about how he doesn't like talking about what he's writing about, and he's like, "No, it's fine. I'm writing Talisman 3." Like,
Yeah.
like came out and just admitted it too.
yeah,
So
not that necessarily, again, not that we doubted it, because it seemed pretty evident, but he kept kind of being cagey about like, well, I'm thinking about it, and then it's like, whatever. And then also he has continually said it's probably a long ways away, and he doesn't ultimately know if it'll pan out, because
Yeah.
sometimes you write and hit a certain point. I mean, one of my ones I always remember is The Stand. Kind of died midway through, and sat for a bit because he didn't know what to do. He was like, I had all these characters, didn't know what to do, and finally realized like, oh, I can blow up a house and kill a bunch of characters, and that'll move things on.
Yeah.
So, sometimes there's delays. I mean, of course, we always joke that Stephen King could probably write a 1,000-page book in the time we do this podcast, but
Yeah.
and legitimately, yeah. One thing that we should be happy about is we're not a George R. R. Martin podcast. We don't,
yeah.
if not, we'd still be waiting for the resolution of Blaine right now.
40 years later.
Right now in 2025.
Yeah.
And what was the cliff in that mid 90s,
94?
97, I think.
Oh, wasn't it 94?
Let's see, Drawing of the Three, Wastelands 91. Okay, that's right.
Good lord.
And then Wizard and Glasses 97. So that's what I was thinking of. So yeah, 93. So maybe we would have had the resolution of that. We would probably have nothing other than that if it was George
That's
R. R.
it, yeah.
Martin. So not to shit on George R. R. Martin or
George R. R. Who?
or any poor people in the chat that might or listening on the podcast side that might be waiting for those
Yeah.
books as well.
It's not that we hate him or anything like that. It's just that we feel bad for everyone who has to wait.
Yeah, and we're happy that King is not that way.
Well, not that bad. He has done. He talks about that cliffhanger at the end of Song of Susanna where he's doing like the whole journal, and dude, it still gets me because I'm pretty sure that it's a true story about the woman with cancer who asked like, "How does it come out?"
Yeah, well,
And he's
that's in
like-
one of his intros, I think, too.
Yeah, he's like, "I have no idea." I'm
Yeah.
like, ooh, that's that's hard. That's rough.
Yeah. But then again, you always got to wonder, like, even if you felt bad and you knew and you sent it to her,
Yeah.
is she going to, like, burn that? Or is she going to die and then her kids or someone find it and then, like, God knows what happens?
Yeah, ka-ching.
Yeah,
They sell it.
I don't know. It's just, I would be nervous if I was an author.
Yeah.
If I knew the ending, of course, which
Sure.
we know that King didn't. But let's see. He also stated in no uncertain terms, Midworld and territories are one and the same. I think most of us figured that by the end of Black House, but it has never been stated so unequivocally in the books.
Yeah.
So he was pretty clear about that. He also mentioned that there will be characters from the Talisman and the Black House that will appear in this third book. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that necessarily that's the biggest surprise. I mean, of course, I assume Jack's going to probably play a big part and be front and center, but
Yeah.
I have an assumption the way that read that it just felt to me like we're probably going to have other characters from both maybe his childhood and his adulthood that'll
Yeah.
show up in this. So, and then there was a fascinating insight into the writing process of Never Flinch.
Mm-hmm.
That was wild because we've been covering Never Flinch and some of the development and some
Mm-hmm.
of the stuff that's been released over the last number of months. And it was original at one point it was titled Always Holly. So when he was talking about that, and he basically talked about how he originally had like 3 threads, and then he gave it to Tabby, and Tabby's like, "That's not that good."
Yeah.
And so he basically just like broke it all down to almost the foundation and rewrote the entire book.
Completely removed
One of the 3
one
things.
of the 3, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's just a cool.
And he said what one of those the 3 was. So that's what was really fascinating to me is like it's not like he just went, "Yeah, I had 3 things and then I removed one." Well, can you say which one it was? Nope. He wasn't like that. He's like, "Oh yeah, it was this and I thought this would be funny if this happened and everything like that.
Yeah, because he mentioned like the dog being kidnapped from the musician in real life.
Lady Gaga.
Yeah, and so he kind of was mentioning that when he talked about...
Well, because he said that Holly and Jerome found lost dogs.
Yeah, Finders Keepers was, did, animals and stuff. So I kind of think that part might be the part that got removed.
No, he said that's what it was, yeah.
And like, so I still wonder if we'll have a little bit of animal stuff just because, like, you can only remove so much, but I doubt it'll be a big thread. But no, it was just kind of cool, and also just an interesting insight into he and Tabby's relationship. Yeah,
he talked about it in detail about like the things with Tabby and like how honest she is with him and everything, and how much he values her opinion and everything. It was really fascinating to see that insight into their relationship, and like she's the first one that'll be like, "This isn't very good," or "That's good."
That's just wild because like. I don't know. I mean, I guess you'd probably want that if you're a guy of his level.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I don't know. There's just, a lot of people I know that if their spouse was that brutal with them, like that'd be an issue. So
they'd be like, God, can't you be a little bit nicer about it?
Yeah. And we know she's super involved in his career.
Yeah.
I mean, like the Carrie story is pretty famous, like rescuing it, and that she's had insight over the years with like, whatever. But it's like to a full on like, hey, you're going to take a fucking, wrecking ball to this book, bring it down to the foundations, rewrite the whole thing because she was just like, oh, this isn't good.
Yeah.
Like that's wild.
Yeah, there's been stories throughout the years of like Tabby suggested this, Tabby suggested that, kind of things. So that's where like I can't remember one off the top of my head, but the Carrie one obviously is the most famous one, is where he's like, nope, this is burn it.
Yeah.
And she rescued it from the trash can and everything. But there's also been other things where she suggested like, and like I said, I can't remember a single one off the top of my head, of course, but she's like, yeah, make Callahan, Irish, or, like there's little things like that she suggested throughout the years that it's like very important to King. And for them to develop the relationship early where she's like, that's not good. Like you should redo that part, or I don't like that.
Yeah.
And just be honest with him. That's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. I really think that she's kind of the silent MVP in all this.
Oh, absolutely.
So
and they sung her praises too on the King cast, and they were talking, even joking around. I think half-heartedly joking around. I think they might be half serious about doing just an episode talking about Tabby's contributions to King's works.
Yeah, well, it sounded like Kate Siegel wanted that. So
that's who it was. I knew there was someone that they were talking about, one of their guests. And, it's Kate Siegel who's like, yeah, we need to talk about Tabby.
Yeah. I mean, she would know, being the also creative that's a spouse of pretty genius.
Yeah,
creator.
She's making, they talked about it, she's making an adaptation on YouTube.
Yeah.
For something from King. So.
Yeah. Here There Be Lions, I think it's...
that's what it was. Yeah,
it's
that short story about a lion in a bathroom.
Yeah, which, of course, you like. Or no, tigers. Here There Be Tigers.
Here There Be Tigers, that's what it is.
Which, of course, you love that idea, right?
Yeah.
Going to the bathroom at school and there being a tiger in the...
Yeah, and like elementary school, like 5th grade, you walk in and there's just a freaking tiger in there.
I just know you like large cats.
No.
So, any kind of predator of sorts.
Dude, the large cats are getting too freaking smart for my taste. I saw a reel today of where a leopard used a baby warthog to lure the mother out of the den.
Yeah.
Like, that's freaking evil, dude.
What about that one famous video of the lion opening the car door? When the people are there, and it just like grabs.
Yeah, they're at the park and then it just like reaches up, just. It just still to this day it bothers me. Why the hell would you not have the doors locked?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
In the chance that something grabs the door handle.
We all learned that in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Got to have
the doors.
Got to have door locks.
Yeah.
I also like Dirty Mike gave us a spider and an angel emoji. So, gotta love that. And then Agamorph says it's an animated short, Lily. I think we've actually covered it because I think I went to YouTube, found it, and grabbed a screen grab of it and shared it on an episode because it's kind of like animated in a very distinct style. So I do think it's been on YouTube for a bit now. So that's pretty cool. What else do you have? That's all of my main notes I wanted to cover. I mean, it's a great episode.
Yeah.
It's a great listen for sure. I always love King, and I think King was very gracious too. Like I feel like the boys there kind of can get geeky on him. And, I don't know. It's cool that he kind of allows it, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I feel like when you're a creator like King, you don't necessarily like get into your creations as much. George Lucas is always that way too, where these people would always go like, I saw one where someone was, I think it was the Family Guy dude,
Seth MacFarlane,
and he was either humming music from the Star Wars movies and then asking Lucas to guess them, and he didn't get a single one right.
Yeah.
And of course I did. I was like, oh, that's that. That's that. And Lucas, but it's just like, he doesn't put the same. I mean, I'm not gonna say that these guys don't put thoughts into their creations, because they certainly do, but they do to a certain point, and then they let them in the world, and like they don't dwell on them beyond that. Like unlike us that are here working on our 10th.
Yeah,
year
I mean,
of
we're
this
going to
show.
talk about it on Geekery Abides, but the kind of thing that you're talking about with King reminds me of what I saw with John Williams from that documentary on Disney Plus. Is that John Williams doesn't go to very many movies? I'm just like, wait, what? Like, you should be the guy to go to movies. You should be the guy going to movies and going like, I would have done this with the music, or I would have done that with the music. But I guess that's the reason why he wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Because then he's not going to enjoy it. But yeah, he doesn't go to movies at all.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that just kind of like blew my mind. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, indeed.
The only thing I had from the King cast is when they talked about Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah.
That was such a fun part.
I love that Bresnikan was a super huge fan, because I love it too, man. When we did it for one of our monthly hangouts for Patreon, like I hadn't seen it in years before that.
It was my first time seeing it, so.
And like honestly, dude, I came away loving that movie. Like I get it is what it is, but like you can't tell me that wasn't an entertaining 90 minutes or 100 minutes, whatever it was. You can't tell me that wasn't a fun time. This machine just called me an asshole.
She just called me an asshole.
Plus the Green Goblin truck.
Oh yeah,
good stuff.
Iconic.
I think that's in Colorado somewhere.
It's somewhere.
The truck, I think the person that owns, I think it's in Colorado.
You
So.
sent me a post, like an article about it.
So maybe one of these days when we're going to go stay at the Overlook, maybe we
That's
can
not happening.
maybe we can see if the
When you stay at the Overlook, I'm staying at the Best Western down the street.
we can see if the Green Goblin's on the way between here and the Overlook. So.
Oh yeah, Agamorphy. Stephen King was so open that he was high on coke when he made it. Yeah, he was not abashed about like, yeah, I was high that day.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I was high the whole time. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I actually do want to mention one other thing that that he mentioned. As he said, of course, the studios would not let the filmmakers kill Tad in Cujo. No,
it wasn't the filmmakers. It was the actress. It was
the executives too. They're like
Stephen King specifically said that the mom. The actress who played the mom stepped in and was like, I'm not making this if you do this.
Well, the studio said it too.
So-
They're like, we're not. You can't kill the kid. And like then the director and stuff went to King after like all these people were saying it, and they're like, so what do what if Tad didn't die? And he's like, dude, if you killed him, they would lynch you.
Yeah.
So like you're totally fine. But then of course King, being King, is like, well, Cujo did lick him, so he didn't die on screen, but he eventually got rabies and died a very horrible death. So I had to appreciate. I mean, not that I condone killing of Tads.
Yeah,
but,
Dee Wallace. Thank you, Agamorphy. That's her name.
Yeah. But yeah, I just love that the King like has a head canon that Tad still died. Just.
From the movie.
It probably would have been much better just to die like he does in the book, because rabies is maybe one of the worst possible ways to die.
It's terrible.
So I did appreciate that quite a bit. Next,
You appreciated a Tad dying?
just that King is dark like that. I just love it.
You embrace the darkness, that's for sure.
Because like there are some people too that are like super like dark with their creativity, but then when you meet them, they're just like this like normal bubbly
nice
person.
bubbly person who's like.
So I just love there's like a slight darkness to King.
Oh yeah,
like he's not like an exact like 180 degree from normal day King that's going on a podcast versus King that's at a typewriter writing a book. Like,
it would be the same with you. If you created something, it would be dark and evil and twisted and make people.
And I'm
scream.
light and bubbly. Is that what you're saying?
No, you're like King is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Black, evil, twisted heart.
Next up, we've got Stephen King hyping the monkey.
Yeah.
So
they talked about the monkey a lot on the King cast too. That's something because it was sponsored by it too. That was
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So he was he posted on Threads. He said, "You'll never see or you've never seen anything like the monkey. It's batshit insane. As someone who has indulged in batshittery from time to time, I say that with admiration."
That's awesome.
Also, there's been some critics that have seen it, and I'm hearing,
dude, nothing but good things.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of good.
Well,
so.
okay. Some people are like, it's the most bloody movie I've ever seen. And I'm like, some people take that as a bad thing. I'm okay with that. That sounds like a good time to me.
Who would take that as a bad thing?
People who don't like blood and guts.
Fools. Fools, a lot of them. So gotta love that. And then we've got moving over to odds and ends. We don't have a lot here, but this is an interesting one. Somebody on Reddit actually posted this.
Okay.
There is a WWE wrestler who has a Dark Tower sleeve. His name is Joe Gacy. And
He's a member of the Wyatt Six.
he has a Dark Tower sleeve. The person said they found it on the video game, and then they went and found some pictures. And then I actually they had the top left pictures what they posted on Reddit, and I went and searched the guy's name and whatever, and I actually found his Instagram, and he's got the rest of them there. So you could look on the top left picture. You could see on the back of his arm is the Eye of the Crimson King. He's got the tower at the center of his arm. He's got the other picture at the bottom is one that he posted on Instagram right after he got the tattoo. I would assume it's the 3 doors. You got Roland's face on his forearm, on the inner part of his forearm.
Yep.
That's wild. I
Yeah.
mean, we have a lot of King fans we've seen over the years, even guys that are tattooed like Scott Ian of Anthrax and stuff, but I can't say we've seen a lot of celebrity King tattoos.
He also wears, so he's a member of the Wyatt Six, which is this group that's supposed to be like descendants from a unfortunately past wrestler named Bray Wyatt. He wears a mask also. Did you happen to see a picture of his mask? It's a pig that has a gas mask. So the Dixie pig, maybe? I'm just saying, maybe, you know?
Yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, of course, King tattoos and Dark Tower tattoos are all over the place. But like I said, of all the different celebrities we've seen over the years that are fans of Dark Tower and Stephen King, haven't seen a lot of celebrity tattoos.
There's actually a couple wrestlers that are really big Stephen King fans.
Yeah,
that I've come to find out.
We've definitely covered over the course of these number of years that there's a lot of King fans everywhere.
That was one more thing I wanted to cover with the King cast. What Stephen King said is that the whole thing with Taylor Swift was absolutely both of them joking around. Was not serious.
Okay, but here's the question I have with that though.
How does she know so much?
Yeah, how did somebody write that for her?
Like someone had to have write that for her that was a fan, because she wrote she said things that were like, she's a fan.
Yeah, she didn't just call out like The Shining and like, it and like she mentioned Dark Tower for God's sake.
Yeah.
So unless there was an actual writer, I just wonder is King just being like
coy?
Not coy, like humble, and just assuming that like one of the biggest music stars on the planet right now.
Agamorphy says I was so disappointed when he said that.
Yeah, I just don't buy it because.
But his thing was genuine. He admitted it that the thing that he named after her was for sure.
Yeah,
but it's her song that he said was not really.
Now, okay. Now, I guess I'm not like saying that like the song is about him. That part might be a joke, but all the stuff that she said on Colbert's show, like, unless there was one of Colbert's writers wrote that for her and scripted it out for her, and they're a Dark Tower, because like, Dark Tower changed my life. Like that, it's not even the part that the song Stephen is about Stephen King. I'm not saying that part. I believe is about Stephen King. I'm just saying all that she said on that show, unless there was a writer that wrote that for her, she's got to at least have an understanding of King a little bit.
Yeah.
So, which again is not that crazy of a thing. Like we're here in 2025, like King's been around for 50 years. Like it's almost harder to find, realms that you don't have King fans.
Right.
Now, not all of them like put it in their songs. Like, some of these bands have done full Dark Tower albums or Stephen King songs and stuff.
Yeah.
They don't always have to do that, but it's like, it's really hard. Sometimes I think it'd almost be more strange for someone to be like, oh, I've never read a Stephen King thing before.
Yeah.
And they're a 40-something-year-old,
especially if they're an avid reader, which apparently Taylor Swift is. So it's like, it makes sense that she would be a Stephen King fan.
Yeah. King is pretty ubiquitous in society.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on over to the Palaver section now. Let's see. And then Agamor says, yeah, the song by itself really doesn't have many connections, sadly. Keisha has a pretty good it has a good Stephen
Is it
song.
Kesha?
I don't know. No. Yeah, I guess so. I should make it clear. I definitely wasn't saying like I don't believe the song isn't about Stephen King. I just don't believe that what she said on Colbert's show, unless it was written by someone in the back, one of Colbert's staff. Like if they actually wrote those lines for her to say, cool, then we can 100% watch it. I just wonder if King was being kind of humble and being like, well, I don't know if she's really a fan of whatever. I don't know. So, let's move on over to the Palaver section. So we are going to go through first the March Insanity 2025. That is going to be starting on March 1st. Just like every year, we basically have like a week between every poll from open to close. So I think it's like the 1st to the 7th, and then the 7th or 8th to the 14th. So it's basically we kind of go through each realm of the bracket as it goes, with the finals being voted and closed on the 31st of March.
Are we still doing the little recap videos as
yeah,
well?
I'll do the recap videos as well. So that all kicks off in a month, I guess, exactly from today. Of course, that's almost feels like you have to put that in quotation marks though, because it's a month. But
It's 4 weeks.
yeah, February. It's a tiny little month.
It's
It's like the
still-
hand of the guy from Scream or Scary Movie 2. Take my strong hand. Although that's actually a misquote too.
He never says that.
Yeah, he never says he just.
Take my hand. No, give me your other one.
It's too weak.
It's too weak. This is my strong hand.
He will forever be that for me too. I've seen him in
Oh, yeah.
a number of other things, including the Schitt's Creek, where he
Yep.
plays a character named Roland, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I will never see that actor and not think of the small hand.
Yeah, small
So-
hand.
All right, so let's go ahead. And so we got March Insanity 2025. We're doing 2 brackets this year. This will be the fourth straight, or not straight, because we did take a break. We did 2019. We did our first March Insanity. Then we took a break for a couple of years. And then I think that this will be our 3rd in a row. So it'll be 4 total,
Yeah.
but 3rd straight.
22, 23, 24.
Yeah, so 2025
Oh,
Dark Tower bracket, but this year we're also adding the non-Dark Tower King bracket, because there's some fun King stuff we'd love to talk about when it comes to, or vote on, and there was just
Yeah.
never going to be time for that, because there's a million things that we could vote on for Dark Tower as well. So we're doing 2 brackets this year. They'll be going concurrently, so each week you'll be able to vote both brackets, or you can pick and choose if you only want to do one bracket, but yeah, let's go ahead and dive on in. Let me get the right slide here. All right. Let's go ahead and bring up the first. So I'm just going to zoom super far into it, and then I'll show the full bracket,
'Kay.
and we'll just talk about each of the things. So the Dark Tower bracket is favorite spoken line.
Yeah.
We had a number of good entries. The one overarching thing I'll say is we got some dark people in this.
Yeah.
This crowd.
Oh, yeah.
There-
Not surprising.
There's some lines here that I was like, these are people's favorite lines.
Yeah. I can't remember. Did we say no opening line?
Because it's not spoken.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
it's not spoken. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's got to be spoken. So
I knew there was something that was taking the we weren't allowing that. That's right.
yeah. So let's go ahead and jump into the first one. And the first and so this is the this is the top left of the bracket. So this is the number 1 most commented is the first one, and it is kill if you will, but command me nothing.
Yep.
So that is the most nominated one, and it will be going against if you love me,
Good
then
Lord.
love me.
Damn.
So remember, what I usually do is I break it up to where like I put the heaviest ones on each of the corners,
Yep.
And then I try to kind of taper it to where like the heaviest ones are going against lighter ones, because like I don't want to go too hard. I mean, sometimes you can't help it,
Yeah.
but I at least want to try to get some hard ones in the later rounds, not necessarily in round 1.
Yeah.
So
You don't want a cakewalk for one of them when you get to round 3.
yeah, and just
But it happens still sometimes.
yeah, from your perspective, any surprises?
No, I mean I nominated both of these, so
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's no reason not to call out my nominations. So
Yeah, no, for sure. And I just compile them all into a spreadsheet and then just use formulas to count everything up and give me totals and stuff.
Yeah.
So next up is See the Turtle, Ain't He Keen? All Things Serve the Fucking Beam.
that's a good one.
And Olin.
Oh God,
That's what I'm saying.
jeez.
Oh, I wish I could take credit. I will maybe admit that I may have nominated one of these two.
Of course you did, Olin. Speaking of dark motherfuckers,
But I'm not the only one. One.
I mean, obviously it made it on the list.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. So, that's 2 of them there. I love the turtle one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Good old Eddie Dean there. Next section here, Death, but not for you, Gunslinger.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And then Thank You for My Second Chance. Thank you, Father, Eddie Dean. Late Eddie Dean line. So,
Oh, that's. Damn, 2 death lines right there.
Yeah, indeed. Anything surprising so far, or any
No.
what do you think of these matchups?
Good so far.
Yeah. Any that you think will be close? We don't have to do like crazy predictions,
No.
but first round is always tough because like
Yeah.
you've got a couple heavy hitters and then you've got not so heavy hitters.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm trying to remember. I don't think it made the list. Let me just double check. There was at least one nomination for Suze. I can't see you.
I swear, these all had to be from you just to troll me, right?
It really wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but that one didn't actually make the cut. But
Jeez.
next up, we've got oh no, please not again. Have pity, have mercy. Roland's final line before the being circled back around, and then on the bottom left corner, long days and pleasant nights. So
That's a good one. It really is.
that's going to be a hard one to beat. That's
I can't remember who says it, whether it's because I just got to it. It's Song of Susanna, John Cullum or Aaron Deep. No, Eddie says to him, "Long days and pleasant nights," and he goes, "That's a wonderful sentiment. Like that's a wonderful thing to say."
yeah.
And I'm just like every time I hear that, I'm like, "Fucking A, it is. Yeah, it is."
And I feel like for that too, like that's kind of like our "May the Force be with you" for Dark
Yeah.
Tower, right? Like, I mean, we have people say it to us in the chat every time when we're
Yeah.
closing the show out and stuff. Like, it just kind of feels like probably one of the more used lines, just day to day for a Dark Tower, at least within a Dark Tower realm.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us are saying this to non-readers, but
I mean, we've talked about this before in the past on the show where we slip and say something Dark Tower, and then it's like, "Did you just call me Psy?" Sir, I meant sir.
yeah, I said thank you side to a pizza person.
Yep.
But just,
Yep.
I blame you, of course.
Of course.
So,
Because I'm the one that made you order pizza and then speak like that. 'Cause,
Yeah.
You know.
well, if I didn't have you around, then I probably wouldn't be openly speaking these lines nearly as much.
That's why it's my fault. I'm
Yes.
so sorry.
Yes. So, so that is the left side of the bracket. Yeah, we got. So yeah, any surprises, any shockers, anything?
No.
Anything jumping out
I
at
mean,
you?
aside from like you said, just how evil our audience is.
Which I do, of course, appreciate.
Of course you do.
Oi.
Baraki's wondering about Go Then. There are other worlds than these.
Let's go ahead and jump on over to the other side of the bracket,
Top
where
right?
at the very top right, Go Then. There are other worlds than these. So,
Baraki just a little bit early.
yeah, so that's
Charyu Tree, what the fuck?
Yeah, Charyu Tree was nominated enough to not only move it up out of the realm of just like singular things, but again, everything on here was mentioned multiple times. So,
Oh.
yeah, Peter jumping the gun on me a little bit, but yes,
Good Lord.
it is going up against Charyu Tree that was nominated enough times to bring it up into the top 16.
Damn.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love the reaction. Next up, we've got let's see. Because when Eddie is in a fucking zone, he could talk the devil into setting himself on fire.
Fucking A, man.
Let's see. I should probably zoom in. I'm having a hard time with what
This
I'm
is
looking
Jake, who lived well, loved his own, and died as Cobb would have it. Each man owes a death. This is Jake. Give him peace.
at. Yeah, so part of the eulogy there.
Yeah.
I did have some nominations that were just far too long. I want to say there was even some people that said Roland's entire speech about Jake, but then there was other people that kept it down to like this. So I just
yeah.
added those votes into like that one. The Gunslinger Creed was another one. Like that's not. I don't think you could really call
Dude,
that a line.
I almost put that in because I'm like, dude, that is so good.
Yeah, there was some, and there is a lot of good like dialogue throughout this series, but some of it's just really long. So yeah, like with this, we try to keep it, and some of these I probably stretched the idea of a line a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think that we kept it. I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
But there was a couple where I was like, oh, like the Gunslinger Creed. Only not enough people nominated because I think most people probably understood it's probably more than a line.
Yeah.
It's multiple lines, but
That's borderline a monologue. Like,
yes, exactly. All right, and then next up, I Ache.
I ache.
That's when Roland says, "Will you say goodbye?" And I ache. So again, just this one I take no credit for. I didn't even nominate this one myself.
Yeah, sure you
so.
didn't. I'm going to find out 10 years from now that there was no real nominations and you just made this all up yourself. just to see the pain on my face.
Oh, I mean, you know how you'd know if I
would not put it past you.
if I manipulated, you know how you'd know? It'd be a lot of flag lines.
He doesn't have that many lines.
No, but I'm sure he has at least 16. Just load the bracket up. And then we've got last up. Oh, I'm sorry, we missed the second one on that last one. First comes Smile, then Lies, last comes Gunfire.
Yeah.
That's a good one. There's a lot of really good lines in this series. And then the last one, the bottom right here, We Are Quartet, one for many, let the palaver begin.
From the intro.
We got that in the intro, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
I think some of the shit we've got in our intro is there because it's great and it's fun. And then May You Find Your Tower and Breach It, and may you let's see.
And may you climb to the top.
Climb to the top.
Yeah.
This is, I didn't think about it until I started compiling this, but this is difficult to fit into a bracket when you got some of these that are like, usually we've always done like names or like very short things, and suddenly there's like lines. I'm like having to like shrink the text to like get it to fit. So
Baraki says, Roland, there I will sing all their names. And then Wrath says, I ache, and the crying emoji.
Yeah, that one. I think that one and Charlie Tree are probably the ones that surprised me the most. Because again, I just basically like threw them into a giant pile, and then I create formulas that will go and read that, sort it out to just the unique. So that brings it down to one for each, and then I go off to the side and say, go count this entire pile if it matches this, and that kind of gives me my totals.
Yeah.
And so like sometimes I'll see them as I'm dropping them in, but for the most part it's like a fucking blur of shit. And then when I get to that point when I got the list, I look through it, I'm like, oh my god, like Charlie Tree, I was like, really? Like,
oh wow,
I love it, but really?
you son of a bitch, I'm in. Yeah. That's what you did right there.
Yeah, so there's the full bracket on the screen.
One of my nominations didn't make it.
Which
We Deal in Lead.
Yeah, there was some good ones that didn't make it. Across the board, there was a number of good nominations. I think one of the problems maybe with this one is there are so many good lines.
Oh yeah,
that there were just ones that like, again, it kind of came into one of those things where it's like, there's a really good line, right? Oh, that's really fucking good. But then when I go and look at the list, it's like one nomination or two, like whatever, just not enough to like breach it up into that top 16.
Yeah,
and it's like, again, that probably speaks to King's ability to write some great stuff. So there's the full bracket. This will all be posted over at darktowerpalaver.com/marchinsanity. And the reason I did the like zoom in thing is just because, as you can see, when it's a full bracket, it can be kind of difficult to, and that's actually what I have on my notes screen. I was probably ill advised, but that's why on some of these I'm having a hard time reading them.
No worries.
So now the next one, far easy to read because we're just talking names here. Let's see.
Here we go.
All right, so next up, we got the non-Dark Tower bracket, and I don't want to always say non-Dark Tower bracket. I just want to call it like the King bracket, but I'm just worried there's going to be some of those people that are like, well, Dark Tower's King.
Yes.
It's like, no, there's a Dark Tower pile, and there's the non-Dark Tower pile. But this is the Stephen King bracket, and we're going to start it the way we started the Dark Tower bracket back in 2019.
Yep.
Most hated character. I guess I don't have that on the screen. It says most hated, but most hated character is what I meant there. So let's go ahead and, oops, that is the wrong thing. Let me get there. There we go. And
this is going to be a lot of me huffing. Just FYI.
Yeah, a lot of people you really love, right?
Oh yeah.
Like number one, Mrs. Carmody. What I always marvel at is I always I always mistakenly think Ms. Carmody, but Mrs. She's married, or she was married. And that's like, my God. Like,
this is all it's going to be for me for the next 5 minutes.
And then versus Miss Sixby, and I did put some book titles on some of these if it wasn't super clear.
Yeah,
I think Miss Sixby came immediately to mind to me, but I do think with the Institute being such a newer book, I wanted to make sure people were clear. That is some dastardly people there in the first realm of the bracket. Going down to the next one here, the kid from The Stand. I almost didn't want to define that one, but I'm like, if someone was not a Stand reader, they'd be like, oh my God, you guys hate a kid?
Yeah.
It's like, no. Versus Brady Hartsfield.
Yeah.
Now that is, again, just when you compare them, like when they're side by side and it's like Sixby and Carmody, and now you got Kid and Brady Hartsfield, that is some...
Yeah.
King has got some fucking dastardly villains,
He's got some horrible villains.
Human beings. And then let's go on over to the next one, which is Big Jim Rennie from
Under the Dome. Yeah.
And Johnny Clayton from 11/22/63, the husband.
Oh, the husband.
Yeah.
Dude, I forgot about him.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Once you think of him, you're like, oh, God, yeah. I actually forgot him and didn't nominate him. And like the second I saw the name, I'm like, oh, my fucking God. How did I not think of him? Because he is fucking terrible, man.
He is.
He really is absolutely terrible. And then down to the bottom, we got Patrick Hochstetter versus Henry Bowers.
Dude, and it versus. So that's funny. Because, yeah, I nominated Henry Bowers.
Yeah, and then with him being at the bottom left corner, that means that he was one of the most nominated
Rocky,
people.
you got a good point. I haven't read Under the Dome for a minute, but Big Jim was bad, but his son was worse? Question mark.
His son was pretty bad now that you mention it,
Yeah.
but I don't think his son got a single mention that I saw. But
Yeah, the thing is that Big Jim finds out, right, and then covers up.
yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
that's worse than the act itself. Is like,
Yeah.
dude, you got to stop it if it happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Plus, he's kind of in that leadership position, so I think he's
Right.
going to have like a
There's
more,
a level of trust there.
yeah, and you're gonna have like more expectation out of him.
Yeah.
And he certainly doesn't do great. Wasn't he tied in with like the meth lab stuff too?
Yes.
I know his son was too, but like he knew about it and everything.
Yeah.
Like it was the murder shit that he found out about with this son, and then helped him cover up.
Yeah,
so-
Brocky just said the same thing. Plus, he made and sold drugs. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, yeah.
It's when you actually like dissect it and everything like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I didn't hit the book title for him, but I felt like it was pretty standard or pretty
Yeah.
obvious. Same with Patrick and Henry here.
these two are evil for different reasons.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating matchup to have in round one.
Yeah.
Because Patrick Hochstetter, dude, is fucking just batshit crazy.
Yeah, and
Like flat out should be locked up in a institution. Kind
throw
of
the
thing.
key away.
Like where Bowers ends up is where Hochstetter should have been.
Yeah.
From like age 6 kind
Yeah.
of thing because of the way he feels about the world. But
Yeah.
then Henry Bowers is just evil.
Yeah,
You know, like pure evil, wants to hurt and stuff like that. And Bowers is the one that got my nomination over Hochstetter. And you know me, I'm a huge It fan. So
yeah. I also there was not enough nominations, but there were some a couple nominations for Eddie's mom.
Kasprak, Mrs. Kasprak,
Yeah.
she definitely abused her son.
Yeah.
So.
And then jumping over to the other side of the bracket, where we're going back to the top of the realm.
Top right.
Percy Wetmore.
Yep. Brocky said a little bit ago, Percy Wetmore has got to be in the finals. Like,
Yeah, he was the outside of Mrs. Carmody. He was the next most nominated
Yeah.
person. So, which actually kind of surprised me. I think probably just because I haven't read it in so long. Like he wasn't immediately coming to mind for me. Like when I started thinking through my list, I got to him eventually. But then when I like kept seeing him, I was like, oh my God! Like I guess I underestimated him because like for me, like when I was brainstorming my list, like the ones that immediately came to mind were like in my mind the worst, and it took me a little bit of time before I came around to remembering Percy. But apparently I was one of the only ones because he was up there versus Leland Gaunt.
Needful Things,
From
right?
Needful Things,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, indeed. And then next up, we've got good old Annie Wilkes versus Harold Lauder.
Wow. I nominated Harold Lauder, but I didn't think that he would make it.
Yeah, he was.
And Annie Wilkes, that's one that's okay.
What?
Well,
You don't hate Annie
I
Wilkes?
don't hate her that much. I mean, she's obsessed with one person.
I mean, breaking legs and killing sheriffs and
Yeah.
I don't know. She's pretty bad.
Oh, I forgot about the sheriff.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, it's the writer mostly that she focuses on. But
Yeah. Plus, did she orchestrate the accident too?
There's
And were his legs broken in the accident?
probably not.
So yeah, she's pretty bad. And then we got the next one down. We got Greg Stilson versus Chris from Carrie.
Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
The bully.
Yeah, Chris was
Not the mom?
Chris was mentioned quite a bit. Well,
Wow.
we still got one last bracket to go.
And Greg Stilson absolutely makes sense. That guy is a fucker.
Yeah, he's pretty terrible.
He's the kind of person that if I had 2 bullets and you put me in a room with him and Mrs. Carmody, I'm gonna
Shoot Mrs. Carmody
I'm gonna
twice.
shoot Mrs. Carmody twice and beat him to death with the gun, kind of thing.
And then the final leg of the bracket here, we got Joe St. George, which I believe is the husband from Dolores Claiborne.
Yeah.
I haven't read that. So and then
There's Margaret White.
and then
Okay.
Margaret White in the other
I pulled
corner.
I pulled a
So,
Baraki.
yeah, jump the gun. So that is our most hated. I just went backward. There we go. So yeah, most hated characters. That is the bracket. That is the way it lines up. Those are your matchups for round 1. So again, March 1st, we will be going and hitting up the first round for both brackets, and then we will whittle this shit down until on our first episode of April. We will come together on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll have the updated videos too that are short that'll like announce everything as it goes. But we will.
What day can we expect those videos on?
Probably the day after the poll. Like the poll ends at midnight, so it'll be the
Midnight on.
I forget. I have it on the website. I think that
Okay.
because the calendar is always the same. Because we don't really worry about days of the week. It's just like I think it's the 1st through the 7th, and then like the 7th through I don't remember. There's a graphic I made on it. So but the videos will be pretty much like the day. If it ends at midnight, I will wake up the next day, go to work, and then when I get home from work, I will make the short videos and throw them on YouTube all the way through the finals. And then on in April with our first roundtable, which is the first episode of April, we will go and recap, which actually is that. Oh, no, I'm looking at February. So that is February 1st is or March 1st is our episode, 15th.
The 12th of April.
Oh, and 29th. So we got 3 episodes in March. So
Sweet.
we'll have plenty of time to discuss that throughout March then. So yeah, that is our brackets for
Nice.
March Insanity. So let's go ahead and jump on over then to top 10 King books. All right. So yeah, good stuff. Anything else I missed in the Brock says Annie is under the batshit crazy category, not as bad as the others, in my humble opinion. Yeah, I don't know. She got enough nominations. I don't know. I think just her actions, like, yeah, maybe she's not as like.
There's a part that just came back to me from Misery that puts her up there. Isn't there a whole thing where she got laid off from a hospital for hurting children?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking dastardly.
Yeah, that's probably.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You know what? To everyone who nominated Annie Wilkes, I apologize. Cry your pardon.
So any predictions?
For top 10 King books?
No, for the March Insanities.
March Insanity?
I
think Baraki's 100% right. I think Percy makes the finals. No contest.
Percy versus Carmen, do you think?
I mean, if I have anything to say about it, it will be. Because she's fucking evil, man.
Oh man, I don't like going too deep into like predictions because I don't want to like thumb the scale in any way.
I don't want to influence anyone. I don't think I have any influence whatsoever on Percy, though. I think everyone who's ever read The Green Mile or seen The Green Mile
and then
knows exactly how big of a piece of shit that guy is.
The actor does such a great job.
Oh, he's the exact same as fucking Joffrey from Game of Thrones. Like, if I ever met him, I'd be like, I fucking love you as an actor. You're an amazing person, but excuse me for the next 10 seconds. Fuck you, Percy. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right, so top 10 King books with Dark Tower not counting as a singular entry.
It's
so
individual books.
So we got a couple emailers, got 4 emailers. So let me go
Nice.
ahead and hit the kind of the stuff they wrote outside of their lists. So first off, we have Captain Daveman on his outro says, if I was including nonfiction, I definitely would have included on writing, but I wanted to stick with novels, which I agree, and I almost had the same thought because I really love on writing quite a bit. It's kind of somewhat autobiographical, but also then it's like an instructional on writing. So I agree with Captain Daveman there. I had the very same thought, and it did not make my final list for the same reason. So Chris from the UK on his intro says, hi, Tad and Peter. Chris from the UK here with my list of top 10 King books. This is probably the hardest list to do so far, and it would most likely be completely different depending on the day. Thanks, guys, and love the show. Thank you for the kind words. And I agree. Yeah. I think we all agree that our list is for now. It's a snapshot, and
this is ever in motion.
Come talk to us tomorrow, and it might be a little bit different. So, and then we also have. Let me go ahead and get this over here. There we go. So I can see that too. Then we had John from Buffalo, but he didn't have any intro or outro. He just got straight to the point and gave the list.
Straight to the point.
And then Chris from Australia said, dear Tad and Peter, he said, let me begin by saying this is just stupid with an exclamation point.
That's 2 punches I'm going to punch Tad after the show for you guys.
Dark Tower is a single continuous narrative, and to break each book up into separate entries in a top 10 list is like saying, Tad, you have to do a list of 3 books that make up the stand separately, or Peter, you have to do a list of parts of it separately.
That's evil.
That's just mean.
Yeah.
Furthermore,
No, if you guys, honestly, I know we cover this a lot on Geekery Abides instead of here on Dark Tower Palaver. I'll tell you right now, I can get back at Tad for all of us by just making him do a top 10 movies of all time list.
won't do it.
See? He says he won't do it, but then he puts this on us. Like, it's not fair. You know what, Tad? This is for you.
Go to hell, cowards.
Furthermore, for a long time now, I've always said that my favorite Dark Tower novel is the one that I'm reading at any particular time. I just find it so hard to separate them out, and each of them have their own strengths and weaknesses, so this is really hard.
Thank you, Baraki. About time you put some truth in the chat.
Be that as it may, I have attempted to do as you requested and come up with the top 10 list of Stephen King books for you. In doing so, I've thought about whether I would rather read a single Dark Tower entry more than any of the other entries, or any other entire novels in the list. And then and all the usual caveats apply. This list could change tomorrow. In fact, it probably will change before I've written this list out. So to begin with, I have 3 honorable mentions. And then at the end, he says, thanks as usual for the show and opportunities to contribute. Long days and pleasant nights. Chris from Australia. So I will cover the honorable mentions as well. I don't really have them on the screen. So I'll do his honorable mentions, and then we'll get into ours. Chris also wrote some notes. So his first honorable mention is Different Seasons. He said this is probably the best collection of novellas or short stories I've ever read, and is arguably one of the strongest such collections ever published. Apt Pupil is absolutely gut-wrenching in its brutality, without an ounce of paranormal activity to be seen. The Body is a fantastic coming-of-age story, and while not on par with the phenomenal It, The Body is still an enjoyable yarn. Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption is one of King's best novellas, in my opinion. And again, it's just incredibly solid story without resorting to any supernatural gimmicks. And finally, the breathing method is not only truly unique and a horrific story, but it introduces the club as a kind of grand central station of other worlds, and is simply fascinating for that reason alone. What a collection. So good stuff there.
That's
and then
awesome.
Dr. Sleep is his next honorable mention. He says, who would have thought we needed a sequel to The Shining? Yet here we are, just a wonderful story, and the Flanagan adaptation is my favorite of all King adaptations I've ever seen. That is high praise, and I don't know if I can necessarily poo-poo that, especially the director's cut. And he says, I adore Abra Stone, both the book and the film, and Rebecca Ferguson as Rose the Hat is a delight. So, and you know, to be honest, that helps. Sometimes an adaptation could hurt or help a book. And
Well, that's what I was just thinking that when you were reading what he said about The Shawshank Redemption, it's like, man, it doesn't hurt that it's one of the greatest films of all time whenever you're reading it. It's like,
yeah,
you picture Morgan Freeman with Red or
Andy Dufresne.
And what's his name?
Andy Dufresne.
The actor.
It's Andy Dufresne. Tim Robbins?
Tim Robbins.
Okay. I was like, Tim came to mind, but I'm like, that doesn't feel right for some reason. And his last honorable mention is Hearts in Atlantis. He says, I love how this collection of short stories is seemingly unrelated until the thread of characters comes together over a lifelong time frame. Having Bobby and Carol meet up again at the end is so heartwarming yet bittersweet. The opening tale of Low Men in Yellow Coats being about Ted Brodigan is fantastic from a point of view of the Dark Tower narrative. In fact, Hearts in Atlantis is one of the books I have read the most times, despite not cracking in my top 10 list. Although, of course, it would have if the Dark Tower was a single entry, as should be properly done. And then he gives me a winky emoji there. So,
he's not having you. Like, he's not having it.
all right, so let's go ahead and jump on into the actual top 10s. So the way I'm going to do this here is I will just go ahead and hit the emailers kind of across the board here. So I will hit those, and they are now up on the screen. Oh, no, I got to hit the pedal, and then they'll be on the screen. There we go. So the top 10, John from Buffalo has Christine as his number 10. Okay. That's a fun one.
Did we want to do our honorable mentions?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Let's do our honorable mentions. Their top 10, or their number 10 is on the list, but what do you got for honorable mentions?
My honorable mentions, I had... Hang on, I'm trying to get it pulled back up. For some reason, it's not... There it is. I had 3. I had The Dark Tower, so book 7.
Yeah.
Not all of it. Calm down, Ted. Dark Tower.
I really wish you would have given another title. It can
I
get,
know, right?
It can get to be such a pain in the ass. Like, you know how hard it was to find a fucking cover?
Yeah, I could have just been the Rose.
Yeah, something.
You know, like, and then I had Talisman and Carrie, and I got to say that leaving off Carrie was one of the hardest things I've had to do in my time of doing top 10s with you. So
Yeah.
I'll just say it. Fuck you, Tad.
I'll take that.
Son of a
And then
bitch.
Agamorphy says, I would love if Stephen King visited the club again with a new story or two. Indeed, that is definitely a really cool. And I really loved the breathing method too. That was a fun story. And then my honorable mentions, I had Revival. We've been talking about that in the last couple episodes.
I'm really glad you read that one.
Yeah. And then I've got my next honorable mention is The Outsider. And then Later.
Oh my God, you love Later.
I do indeed. So, so that is all the honorable mentions, and then now we're into the top 10s. Number 10 for John again is Christine. I'll jump over to the other side, Captain David, because Chris has notes. Captain David has Salem's Lot, so we got some earlier King and some of these here. Chris from the UK has Blaze, which actually that's a really I really love Blaze too. Not enough to make my list. But this was a really hard list to make.
Yeah, it's a very hard list.
I didn't even look that hard, and I think I had like 15, which is just immediately just throwing up shit up on the list.
I had, because we do our shotgun list. We both do it the same way we do our shotgun list. I had 9 from memory.
Yeah, I had like 15 as I just, because some of them would spark each other where I'd like just have an immediate like whatever, but then like one made me think of another, and eventually I was like, let me just stop for a second. I went and counted. I'm like, oh my God, I got 15. I'm like, I'm not even going to go look at the list at this point, because like if I've forgotten something, like it might hurt me, but it's only going to make my life worse if I go look
if I go and look and remind myself of oh yeah, that movie, that novel.
And then Chris from Australia has The Dead Zone, and he says this one was both compelling and chilling, as the parallels between the story and the current political climate are just too uncanny for words. Classic early King, and that's one we're going to be doing for the
March Hangout
Patreon. Yeah, so can't wait for that. So let's go ahead and go on over to. Let's see. We are going to start with you.
Okay.
And it'll be your number 10. And let's make sure, hopefully all my buttons all work.
And drum roll.
I can't do a drum roll. I've got all the...
Billy Summers. I mean, you had Later on yours. I have Billy Summers on mine. We both took to these books. I don't know what it is about Later for you. Billy Summers is one of his most complete novels.
Yeah.
From top to bottom.
Yeah.
Stem to stern, all of that. You know, like he really nailed it for me, where it's a down to earth tale that takes a left turn when the girl gets dumped on his street and everything. Like, it's such a good story. Yeah. I've actually been itching to reread it.
Yeah. I haven't reread it.
It's been a minute.
I probably do need to reread it, but that's great. Easy one to find the cover for too. I did covers here.
Very easy.
So I may have already spoiled mine because I said it was hard to find a cover for, but my number 10 is The Dark Tower. It's just hard, even when you do like Dark Tower, like book 7. Like there's, dude, I still ended up not finding like a really good big size one. It doesn't matter much because I don't need to like stretch it out too crazy big. But it annoys me. I like to have really good quality pictures. So so mine is book 7. I almost said book 10 because it's number 10. But book 7, I just love this book. Of course there's a lot of tragedy involved, but I mean like Dandelo is one of my favorite things, like finally reaching the tower, in terms of pure emotion, like the loss of Eddie, the loss of Jake, the loss of Oi, like just 1, 2, 3 punch. It just feels like by the end you're just like just a withering, quivering pile of goo after King is done with you.
Also on top of that, you have the complete like out of left field that Flag is murdered by Mordred and eaten.
Yeah, I mean,
the introduction of Mordred and everything. It's just like on top of everything else, it's just like, oh my God, we got like this new bad guy introduced like in the first like 5 minutes of the book.
Yeah, Callahan.
Callahan
too.
goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always forget.
I was going to mention Flag as the final because that's so big. It's got to be elevated above the rest of them. To lose Flag, of course. Like,
the Billy Bumblers were more important than Flag.
See, I wear black for a week after I read that. I
I wear black every day. What are you talking about?
I got to go into mourning, so wear like the black armband. Like
they wear
like
a black armband with RF on it. I'm gonna get one of those made for you, just so you can have it on your desk.
And another one that says "My Life for You."
And on the inside it says "How's your pork?" or what is it? The cop line from his button.
Yeah.
How's your pork or is it how's your bacon?
Something like that.
Yeah, one of those. Agamorphy says he's on his Billy Summers second read right now.
That's awesome. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the number 9 for everyone down below from the email list. We've got Captain David has Hearts in Atlantis. So another Hearts in Atlantis mention, although the last one was honorable mention. So it is kind of interesting to see the ones that I didn't count honorable mentions for any of the stats or anything, but it's always fun to see because honorable mentions, I assume, are ones that just fell outside of the list.
Yeah.
So to see repeats, it's always fun. Chris from the UK has The Dark Half, in my opinion, the only Stephen King slasher that we've got.
Yeah.
So good stuff there. And then John from Buffalo has Pet Cemetery. Such a happy ending there.
Oh, yeah. So happy.
Oh, good stuff. And then Chris from Australia has Billy Summers as well as his number 9, a little higher than you. He says the book showed that Stephen King can still write at an absolute top level, or can still write at the absolute top of his game, even into his 70s. To play such a massive twist to the story at such an unexpected spot about 1/3 in was a real surprise. So and I love Billy Summers as well. So the problem with this is like when I see the ones that aren't on my list, like I'm like jealous a little bit because I'm like, God, I wish I had that on my list, but I'm like, there's only 10
What
spots.
am I going to take off?
Yeah, there's only 10 spots though, for God's sake. Like
someone mentioned Christine Albert, John from Buffalo had it as number 10. I had that on my shotgun list and I'm just like, man, I can't put that on my list.
Yeah.
That can't make my top 10. Like, oh my gosh.
Damn you, Peter, for making us do this.
I didn't make us do this. You did.
How dare you?
Don't you dare.
Oh, all right. So next up is your number 9.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and there we go. It is
Firestarter.
You know what's funny is I didn't think about this, but then once I saw it on your list, I'm like, of course, like not in like a bad way. It was just one of those things where like when I was like trying to anticipate your list, like I was just one that I didn't think of. But when I saw it, I was like, I'm a fucking idiot. Like how did I not like?
With how much I talk about it, I fucking love this book.
Yeah, indeed.
Like it's such a good one, and honestly, it's kind of funny because Firestarter and Carrie are very interchangeable for me. It's like they go back and forth which one's on top of like I'm more of a fan of at the given moment. If you make me do this list in 6 months, Carrie might be on top.
Now what you're saying is Carrie and Charlie tag team is what we need.
Carrie and Charlie tag team would destroy this planet. Carrie versus Charlie, on the other hand, would be oh my god.
Yeah, well we've seen Carrie versus Jason.
I mean, yeah.
the one, I forget which one it was, where they have a telekinetic girl fighting Jason. That's great stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, I love the story. The dad, it was so refreshing. I think that's the reason why I took to it so much is that it's the dad instead of the mom. Because a lot of times it'll be the mom that'll be the one that, is there and she's overwhelmed. And what is she going to do to protect her daughter now that her husband's gone? And he's the one that's supposed to protect the family. But King turns it on, the dynamic on its head where it's the dad and the mom was the one that was murdered. And I don't know why, but I love that. And then Charlie and the whole second half of the book where they're captured and it's like, no, Charlie, don't believe him, he's bad, you know. And then it doesn't hurt that we have the karate chop of doom in the movie.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Did you ever go looking into that alternate ending for the new one?
Oh, dude, no, I forgot. I need to go look that up.
We just discovered that because I was looking it up. Someone and like it was showing their IMDb stuff. It was one of the first times I've ever seen like special features listed as like a line on someone's like IMDb list. It listed like, Firestarter making of, and then Firestarter alternate ending. So kind of weird. But jumping over to my number 9, and it is, oops, what did I just do here? Sorry, I keep having it clicked on Google and then it like changes shit on my screen. But my number 9, it actually is going to be your number 8 as well. We have our first shared one. So, and it is The Drawing of the Three.
Hey, right around the same place for us.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah. That's shocking to me.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Dude, this is a hard
That's
list.
your second favorite Dark Tower book.
Yeah, this is a hard list to do, man.
So you're telling me there's only 2 Dark Tower books on your list?
What?
Drawing of the Three is your second favorite. Oh, no, well, you have the Dark Tower, so 3. You only have 3 Dark Tower books on your list?
No, we can't go too far ahead here.
Wait a minute. This is your second favorite book. Dad, are you telling me it changed? Did it change?
But yeah, so for me, I mean, this is why we're here. I've said that repeatedly. The reason that we're doing this show right now, because like I was very hit or miss on Gunslinger. I got through it, but it didn't necessarily like capture me. And I remember just saying like I'd already bought the second book, and this is back in the day when you were buying physical books. And I was like, you know what? I'll at least give it a try. I'll give this next book like the first chapter. But if it feels like this last one did, this series isn't for me. So
right.
I read the first chapter, which of course this is one of those ones where there's like really long chapters, but there's a bunch of sub chapters. But the end of the first chapter was looking through a doorway into a 747
into our world
jetliner in our world.
God.
So that it was like hook, line, and sinker. That's why we're here. That's why I'm still here as a Dark Tower fan. This book's just incredible. I feel like it's got one of the craziest ticking clocks.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, it just feels like edge of your seat the entire time. It feels like it grabs you by the throat.
It has like 7 different bombs that you have to worry about throughout the book. You know,
yeah.
Like we've talked about that before on both shows, where it's like the bomb, whether you show it to the audience or you don't, like the timer itself, or you don't show it so they don't know how much time there is.
Yeah.
But to remind them of that, you got the Lobstrosities biting Roland. He's infected.
Yeah.
You
Detta
got
Walker.
That Detta, is obviously an issue. Is Eddie going to go fucking nuts and kill Roland one of these times? Because he's threatened him with a knife once already and everything. So, you don't never trust a junkie.
Yeah, Roland's poisoned. And then Jack Mort's door, one of my favorite singular sections of any of these books. Like, it's just this book is just incredible. And like I said, it just feels like a roller coaster ride. It feels like this one, like as like weird as like slow and meandering as the first book feels at times. Like this one just feels like it just fucking just grabs you by the throat and it doesn't let go until you're at your final page. And you're like, what the fuck just happened?
I will say that this is definitely the real start of the series for me. Like, I'm doing a reread right now, and I will say the Gunslinger, it felt kind of like, oh man, do I have to do this again? Like, do I have to hear him drop Jake again? Do I have to hear him explain himself? Do I have to hear Walter in the Golgotha, death, but not for you, Gunslinger? It's like, oh, not again, Roland. Like that dread. But when I get to the Western Sea, it's like, fuck yeah, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, and this book is just incredible. Like I just don't think there's honestly I don't know that there's a weakness in this book. Like it's just this book is just incredible, start to finish. You were mad that the Lobstrosities took his fingers. Of course,
I could not believe that. Like, when do you have a main character who's an ultimate badass? Would be the same as like, oh, let's take Luke Skywalker, cut off his hand, and not let him have a replacement.
Yeah.
Like, if that's what happened at the end of Empire Strikes Back, everyone would be like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen at the end of the movie. It happens at the beginning. This happened in the first chapter. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Good stuff. Just great book. So let's jump on over to number 8 for the emailing crew here.
For everyone else but me.
We've got yours is already covered.
Yep.
So we got Captain Damon has Christine. So Christine making another appearance. Again, when you do the mathematics like I always do, number 1 gets 10 points, number 10 gets, whatever. So, clock it that Christine's getting some points now. And then we've got 11/22/63 from Chris from the UK. And then the Wastelands from John from Buffalo.
Yeah.
So we're seeing some Dark Tower books popping up already. And then Chris from Australia has The Green Mile. Says, I've only read this one once, and yet it was so powerful and heartbreaking that I classified as top 10. The ending is one of King's most bittersweet, as so many are. You know what I will admit too? Like, this movie like traumatized me as a child when I watched this. Just the sad, like it's like another version of Old Yeller. You know, you
Yeah.
spend this whole movie or whatever. And I will say, like, I read it once and it was like closer to like being I was still a teenager, and like I gotta say that's probably the reason I haven't reread it since. There's just
Yeah.
an element where it's just like,
It's like Schindler's List. It's a punch in the gut.
yeah, and not to say there's
it's not as bad as Schindler's List, but it's still bad to just like, I'm tired, boss. You know,
Yeah.
like, oh, coffee.
and it's not like because there's a number of those with King that I've reread, so
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about this one. Maybe it's just the built-in childhood trauma of what the movie did to
Mm-hmm.
me back in whatever 90s, whatever it was. Like it just. Yeah, I every time I like am flipping through my list and like, you know, that's one that I've read before but I don't have in my like Audible, and every time I'm like shopping King and like I'm looking at the ones that don't say in your library, every time I see that one I'm always just like, I can't do it.
I don't want to do that.
So-
I don't want to go through that. Yeah, and that's what I've said before when we talked about Schindler's List is like you have to be mentally prepared for it. That's Green Mile.
Yeah,
You
for
have
sure.
to be ready to hurt, you know.
Yeah. I would like to reread it though, because I'm sure there's a lot I've forgotten. You know, because I've seen it, 3 or 4 times throughout my life, but I've only read it the one time, and I was like 15 or 16. Like I don't think I knew you yet. So,
the movie came out in '99, so
yeah. So like it's been long enough that I should probably reread it. But God, it's hard to commit to such things.
Yeah.
For my number 8, I've got Different Seasons. Chris already wrote pretty beautifully about it. But yeah, for me, like I'm a movie guy, so movies are always going to have at least a small part, and like it's either going to help elevate or lower a book. And like you've got some of the greatest King adaptations of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Inside the cover of this.
you got
this here.
Stand By Me, The Body,
Yeah.
Shawshank Redemption, Rita Hayworth, The
Yeah,
Shawshank Redemption,
an apt pupil.
and then Apt Pupil. I have never seen that movie.
Yeah, got to see Ian McKellen playing a Nazi.
Okay, let's watch this list. I have so much on this I need to get through.
But yeah, no, it's just a great one. And then the breathing method, I actually remember it was probably, I went and did the audiobook on this probably in the last couple of years. And I remember I was driving out to Wendover, for no reason in particular, of course, and listening to the breathing method. So it's just like, now it's like ingrained in my head, like that fucking drive, which you've made, you know what it looks like.
Yep.
And like now every time I think of breathing method, I think of the story, but I'm thinking of that drive at the same time. And it's
There's
just,
a whole lot of nothing out there.
it's an incredible story though as well, along with the other 3, which are just like bangers. And I just wish that the breathing method would get adapted so we could just have like the coup de grace of everything in this, made.
Yep.
But
Wraith says in the chat, Wizard and Glass has to be on here somewhere.
maybe.
It better be, Tad. Otherwise, we're going to have some words outside after this.
Otherwise, you'll think I'm a replicant.
Otherwise, I know that you're a replicant. There's certain things, like if we made a list and you're like, yeah, I don't think that John Williams is a good composer, or if you said Wizard and Glass is in one of your top 10 King books, that's not Tad.
You know it's a body snatcher.
That's not Tad.
All right, let's go on to number 7 for the email list. Wait, did that click over? Okay, it did. So we got Captain David has the Green Mile. So the Green Mile getting another mention.
Yeah.
We got the Talisman from Chris in the UK. So yeah, great stuff. What is it, Wolf, right?
Wolf.
Yeah, gotta love that. And then the Green Mile from John in Buffalo as well.
Oh,
So,
man.
a lot of Green Mile mentions here.
It is a good novel. Let's be perfectly honest. It is.
Yeah, it really is, for sure. And I just love that it's up here too. And I do also think that, like, I mean, it's Darabont's work too, has to, like, that rubs off on that book. Like, there's no way you read that without thinking of like those actors, and because that movie's so brilliantly done too.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It sucks because it'll always play second fiddle to Shawshank, but it's unfair because it is such a fucking great movie.
It is.
That, like, I wish it would, and but there's just a shadow that you're never going to be able to get out from under, right?
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but it's the way it works. Chris from Australia has Wizard and Glasses number 7. He says, arguably this is the most, quote, standalone book from the main Tower series, and what a cracker it is. So many great scenes, from the Mexican standoff at to the destruction of Sitgo, the trap in the Box Canyon / Thinny, and the gradual picking off of Latigo's men and the destruction of the oil tankers, and of course, Charyu Tree.
Oof. Well, I know someone who voted for that. No, who's going to vote for that?
And you know what's funny? It's like I just like grab the emails and stuff you send me and I just throw them into a list. Like it ends up kind of becoming like anonymous. Like if I wanted to do some work and backtrack who nominated stuff, I probably could, but like it's too much work.
Too much.
But yeah, I don't know. I may have nominated Charyu Tree.
Yeah, of course you did.
All right, so then we are going to go to your number 7. Let me get the thing placed here, and then your number 7.
The Outsider.
This one actually didn't surprise me when I was thinking of like what's going to be on Peter's list. Like this one,
Yeah.
I don't know why I was just like, this is going to be on Peter's list,
Dude, the thing also with this one is that there's memories with these books, especially like the first time reading them, which is why it was so hard to leave Carrie off of it. I remember, and I've told the story before, I picked it up, read it in one night. Like,
Yeah.
and it's not one day. It's like I picked it up at like 1 or 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I stayed up all night reading it, and then I got up and went to high school the next day.
Yeah.
You know, like
you
kind
don't
of
need
thing.
sleep when you're that age.
Yeah, you don't need sleep.
I read a Song of Susanna the first time in a day.
Yeah.
One sitting. Like it was up at when my family had a cabin.
Yeah,
and I went to
yeah,
the
yeah,
cabin.
yeah.
And it's like so there's no electricity, the normal stuff that would probably get you. There's no cell phones to the same extent we have them today back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just remember I was still reading it for the first time, and finished book 5 and picked up Song of Susanna and looked at it. And went, that's a small book, and it was early in the morning and. Sat down, and I mean, I went up, got ate. Sometimes I went out to like the porch and stuff, but I was like, I always had the book in my hand, and before I went to bed that night, I finished the book.
Yep.
So
It's actually what I'm going to be finishing on my drive home today. I only got like 20 minutes left, so
yeah,
I may not get through it. I may have to finish it when I get home. But yeah, The Outsider is one that I have a fond memory story of it because you read it first and you got to the part where Holly shows up, and dude. Tad does not text in all caps. He doesn't. He follows proper internet protocol and doesn't yell at me. But this is one of the few texts that in all caps, you have to read The Outsider as soon as possible. And I'm like, I'm in the middle of reading something. He's like, I'm telling you right now, something happens in this book, and when you get there, you have to text me.
yeah. I said when it happens, text me. You're like,
Yep.
what are you talking about? But you'll know.
Yeah, you'll know. And so I did. I dropped the book that I was reading.
I also knew your love of true crime, so I knew like that first
mystery.
that first
Yeah.
chunk of the book would just absolutely hook you. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's true. I mean, I've been on a true crime binge the last. There's a new OJ documentary on Netflix dropped like last week.
oh really?
So, yes, that's my Sunday coming up tomorrow. But seriously, the hook with you getting me, do you have to read this? And then yeah, you're absolutely right. The first half of it just being like the true crime, like how.
Yeah.
How is he in two places at once?
Yeah.
Like, and then getting the question answered. And I love that I didn't get the question answered at the end of the book. That was one of the, like, I walked through a desert and had a drink of cool water, refreshing.
Yeah.
That it wasn't the end that I figured they solved and showed the twist and, it was revealed and everything like that. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Then we had to deal with The Outsider itself and the return of Holly. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Never thought I was going to see this character again.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I love The Outsider.
That's great. You may not be happy about this because this is on your list too, and it's your number 1.
It's my number 1. No, I knew this. No. I am not upset
So,
at this.
also-
I'm not upset at this at all.
Also, we found this thing on the other podcast where we decided with these top 10 lists, if we got a shared one, we just reveal it for both people when the first person has it, because
Especially
it
if we're
sucks,
going 10
it
to
sucks
1.
to try to like hold like Peter to not talk about it while I talk about
Yeah.
it, and then Peter talk about it later. So like, right now we can just talk about it. But for me, it's is my number 7. Yeah, just
I mean, is there any surprise that it's my number 1 with
No.
the way I talk about it?
No.
I mean, if it wasn't number 1, would you have been like, dude, are you okay?
No, I would have known you were a replicant. I would have had you destroyed immediately.
No, I knew this was going to happen. I was fully prepared for this to happen.
Yeah.
I honestly was questioning on whether or not it was going to make your list, considering the fact that you've only read it fucking 2 times.
Oh, I've read it more than that.
No.
Yeah, I just
No.
Yeah, because I read it as a book, and then I got the audiobook back in like when I was still using iTunes for a second.
And you listened to it once.
Yeah. Well,
And read it once. So that's 2.
no, I've listened to it again.
Okay.
Because I have it on my Audible now. So,
Okay.
but yeah, for me, I mean, Chris already alluded to it a bit. This is probably one of King's greatest coming of age tales.
It is his greatest. It is.
Yeah, as well as it's probably the most iconic thing. You know, King
that
said it.
clown is gonna outlive me.
Yeah, King said it on the first time he was on the King cast. He said, you know, like 100 years after I'm gone, there'll still be that fucking clown. Like, it is just the most iconic thing, and like you could say that part of that is Tim Curry, and then later Bill Skarsgård actually bringing those to screen, because you might argue that like books aren't as good in modern society as being iconic.
Yeah.
Like usually you have to have a film or a television or something to like make it visible to become like an icon in our pop culture. But either way, like those are some of the most iconic things in all of horror. Easily probably the most iconic thing for Stephen King. So I mean, you might argue like The Shining, because of Kubrick stuff, like the Overlook, like you could argue that, but I think that it probably goes
that
above.
already you've seen that it has surpassed The Shining. I think The Shining was
for
higher
iconic.
for iconicness.
Yeah.
Yes, that's all I'm talking about here. For how iconic it is and how much in the social zeitgeist that it's in.
Yeah.
I think The Shining had that title until like 1999, 2000. And that's where The Shining started to take a dip, because I think that horror started to reinvent itself. You started having things like Scream coming out, and Scream hitting its strides with like its second and third film and everything like that. You started having things like Final Destination and other things starting to come out. Saw came out and changed horror. And I think that The Shining kind of took that's a classic. That's not scary, you know, that's not unsettling. That doesn't do it for me anymore. But clowns are scary. Every generation, there's people who are scared of clowns.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that the rise of horror in the turn of the century and The Shining, again, not saying it's bad. That's not what I'm saying. It's iconic, it's amazing, and everything like that. But I think in the zeitgeist, I think that's where Pennywise
also
surpassed
a
it.
clown versus a house. Like I just think that like the general
hotel,
you know, like a building, I guess is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
But like there's just an element of like a building's a building. Like it could be scary. You know, like I think 11/22/63 did a good job of that, where it's like you just get this vibe from
The book depository.
The book depository. It almost feels like it's alive. But I think with the clown, it's just so much more like tactile, and it's just like, or not tactile, because like a building's tactile too. But like a clown is just so much more menacing. There's something, I don't know. So yeah, I do think that like it is the most iconic, and then just like this is just a wonderful story too.
It is.
You know, like what I love to tell people is like, you know, it is horror, and it is horror at its best when it is horror. But there's whole stretches of times of this book that you're reading and it doesn't at all feel like horror. It's a coming of age tale that like just becomes absolutely terrifying at points. You know?
I'll say it, like the perfect example of what Tad's talking about is Stanley's bit with the 6 phone calls, where you just hear about his experiences being Jewish.
Yeah.
Like that, there's this whole stretch there for his thing where it's we're gonna get married, we're gonna take this job, we're gonna do this, I'm gonna become, and then all the parents, you're gonna fail and you're gonna starve, and you know, and everything like that. And it's just like that's
there's a lot of layers. I mean, with Beverly, with like being a woman and a girl and all that kind of stuff, sexual like harassment, abuse, all these kind of stuff. But yeah, I just
we talked about it earlier with like the most hated and the lines and everything like that. Eddie Kaspar's mom, like that she got some votes for most hated, and like her abuse to Eddie. And I know a lot of people would be like, "Oh, well, abuse. She just cares," and it's like, no, that's fucking abuse.
Yeah, it's mental abuse is just as bad as physical abuse.
Well, also the thing also that is starting to, especially in today's society, is coming out that Eddie Kaspar's mom is so guilty of is the emotional abuse. The emotional blackmail of Eddie of like, don't you love me? You know, like that kind of shit that just like so many millennials don't put up with that, and I'm one of them, you know, that kind of thing, just like fuck you kind of thing. So that's the thing that I love about it, is that no matter what, there's 7 different losers. You're going to like one of them. Yeah. You're going to attach to one of them.
Yeah, someone's going to jump out to you. And so you feel for them. You feel for them all, but you're going to have favorites. Like, it's just this, and there's just so many, like, layers to this book. And, like, Baraki says it is a big read. By the time I got done, I felt like I had read an entire series.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
it's an epic. Like, it really is.
Honestly, it could have probably been broken up into 3 books. And, you know, It Chapter 1, It Chapter 2, It Chapter 3, just like the movies and everything like that. But I love, that's one of the things I love about it, is it's just like, let's go. Let's go
Yeah.
back to Derry. Let's
And
let's
what's his
hit
name?
it and
Is the
everything.
narrator?
Stephen Weber.
Stephen Weber.
Yeah,
Yeah, he did-
absolutely. Agamorphy says it is his number one, their number one as well.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, absolutely. Just like, and you know who my favorite loser is. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
beat Peter.
yeah, I was about to say, yeah. If I could have just trained you with beat back in high school, that would have been for the best. Let's see, where are we at? Number 6.
Number 6 for the email crew.
All right, let's go ahead and jump on over to that. And we have different seasons for John. Another mention for different seasons. Gotta love that. Drawing of the 3 from Chris from the UK, and The Shining from Captain Daveman. So
Don't you mean the shitting?
I don't want to get sued. Let's see. Going on to, and you know what? I just realized I still haven't watched that Simpsons Treehouse of Horror that came out the last couple of years, where they were doing it finally.
Oh yeah,
I still haven't.
We were supposed to watch it and then talk about it. We never did.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I need to figure that out.
With us having it on the screen, that's kind of a shame on us.
Yes, indeed. And then we got Chris from Australia has 11/22/63. He says, again, I've only read this one once, but I absolutely loved it. I'm a sucker for time travel concepts and the attention to detail King went into to create such a believable background to his love story is breathtaking. It's hard not to just heap a bunch of praise on this book.
Oh, yeah.
So good stuff. So now we've got your number 6. Let me go.
And your number.
What are you reaching for there, Peter? Seeing if I'm a replicant or a body snatcher? Let's see.
It's my number 6. What's your number?
And it's my number 2.
Okay. Whew. Dude, you were fucking scaring me earlier playing all coy like that. Like you didn't have Wizard and Glass on your top 10. Oh, I expected it to be number 1 or number 2. I knew it was one of those two. I think I know what your number 1 is now. So, yeah.
Of course, it's
Tommy Knockers.
Tommy Knockers. I'm glad you knew where I was going. I lost the book. I lost it in my brain. I'm like, what's the one that Peter hates? I almost said Langoliers. I'm like, that's not Langoliers.
I like Langoliers. That's a good story.
I know. I was thinking that. I'm like, no, it's not that. That's
No,
just the one it's the one that has the terrible adaptation.
Yep.
But yeah.
I mean, what needs to be said about Wizard and Glass? We've talked about it so much, but Susan, Charyu Tree, Chris said it.
Yeah.
The showdown of the Traveler's Rest is one of the greatest moments in this entire series.
As voted by Dark Tower Palaver, it is the best moment.
Oh, it was the best. That's right. I
yeah.
forgot.
Yeah, there was no surprise in that for me. And there was a couple where I was like, this could get close.
I thought Roland with Blaine was going to give it a run for its money.
Yeah.
Command me nothing, you know?
And then on top of it, King's building of characters and our most hated back in 2019. The finals came down to a Cordelia and Rhea. So
we still need to have that summit discussion after we finish the book club.
Yeah.
And have a literal, okay, Tad, you're going to defend A and I'm going to defend B, and which one's worse?
Yeah.
And just have a discussion and then let the people in the chat vote.
Yeah.
And just see like, all right, show us A's or B's.
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah. But no, this is Chris mentioned it on his I think it was on his honorable mentions.
Yeah.
But this is probably the most self-contained.
Chris has it as his number 7.
Oh yeah. So he mentioned it though in his note where he said it's probably the most self-contained.
Yeah.
And that's true. I mean, outside of the Blaine finish, like it is pretty much a self-contained story.
And the little bit at the end with the
like Oz and stuff.
Yeah.
But overall, like it feels very much like its own
absolutely.
story with a beginning, middle, and end. I would say for me, it's Stephen King's greatest love story.
Oh yeah.
I do think there's
a discussion to be had about 11/22/63, but I think Wizard and Glass takes it.
Yeah. Plus, we got Ermont and Rhea in this book.
Stop, man.
I mean, you can't ignore it. You got to admit, Rhea is a wonderful villain.
Rhea's amazing, but there's no reason to mention that filthy snake.
And Musty with its 6 legs or whatever it is.
She licks him.
Licks the cat.
And then the worst part is like I just have to call this out. We noticed this in the book club is that she licks Musty as a way of forgiving him, and then sends him with the note. And Jonas pets him, and then like looks at his hand. It's like. That's where she licked, man.
Yeah. And then also like the Charyu Tree part, you mentioned it a bit, but also just tragedy-wise, like I said, like I guess it's kind of hard for me to say. Like it's hard to come around to Green Mile because it is just there's trauma there. But then I read Wizard and Glass as my favorite book. Like it's because it's maybe one of the most traumatic things in all of King's works. Like it's absolutely brutal. So
and the fact that here's the other thing that makes it just so much terrible or worse is that Roland sees it all.
Yeah,
like all of it.
Plus Roland's mom.
Oh God,
you got that,
dude. I always forget about how bad that is.
Yeah,
like it's bad, but it's so much worse. Roland's mom's a betrayer. She's an assassin. She's gonna murder his father
and then killing her.
And then he guns her down, thinking that it's Rhea. Like that's just
Oh. And also, we've talked all this before we put a button on this and move on. Cuthbert has not been mentioned once yet.
I mean, or the lookout.
Cuthbert is one of the MVPs of this series. So.
It still blows my mind that you can love Cuthbert and hate Eddie. Like it just doesn't make sense.
Well,
Tad.
it's like a parent that has twins. You know, you got the one you like, and then you got the evil one.
No.
Oh.
That's like saying I have a Reese's peanut butter cup and a Reese's peanut butter cup, and I like this one. I fucking hate that one. They're the same fucking thing.
I don't know. If horror movies have taught me anything, there's always one evil twin. So let's go on to number 5 for the email crew. Captain David has The Dark Tower. Chris from the UK has Salem's Lot. And then John has from Buffalo has Hearts in Atlantis. More Hearts in Atlantis. And then Chris from Australia has... I just lost my place. The Wastelands. I screwed something up here. Luckily, I didn't screw up the note.
While you're fixing that,
no,
okay.
I got it. I deleted some of his notes from 5 because I'm pushing these buttons to change stuff, and it's actually like hotkeys, and it's just programmed hotkeys. So when I've got it on here, it's the hotkeys are fucking up shit. Luckily, it's stuff we've already passed, so it's not an issue. But
gotcha.
What were you going to mention though in the chat?
Baraki says, "Went through the keyhole is the most contained story." I think Baraki, there's an asterisk there. Because I believe that Chris is saying the most contained story of the 7 primary.
Yeah, I would also say you could have a discussion about book 2 as well.
I think book 1.
Yeah,
book 1.
Yeah, that one feels like such
We've talked about it before. That book 1, hour and 45 to 2 hour and 15-minute movie, just right there.
Yeah. But Chris has The Wastelands as number 5. He says, this book combines the wonderful journeying through Midworld that is so reminiscent of similar aspects of Lord of the Rings. We as readers get to experience new lore, new lands with the quartet as they pass into Midworld and head towards Lud. Furthermore, we discover my favorite character is not really dead yet. And his rebirth into Midworld at the hand of Eddie's key and Suze and Detta's capture and control over the speaking demon is possibly my favorite scene in the entire series, and a wonderful scene at River Crossing with Aunt Talitha, and we get to meet Blaine. I mean, yeah, that's it. There's a lot of
we forgot something.
What?
You didn't do your number 6.
Oh, that is.
I just looked up and I was like, wait, why is this uneven?
Oh yeah, I guess you're right. I should have.
We were talking about my number 6, which is Wizard and Glass, but that's not your number 6.
But that is everyone's number 5. So yeah, we can circle back to my number 6, which is Hearts in Atlantis.
Okay,
get it up on the screen.
That's the wrong pedal.
That's the wrong pedal. All right, so Hearts in Atlantis. I actually was like okay with this book the first time, but when we read it for our Patreon hangout, it catapulted up into one of my all-time favorite King books. This is an absolute beautiful book. Like it kind of feels like a short story / novella collection, but as Chris kind of mentioned, like you end up finding out they're all like connected, and it's kind of a tapestry that's telling one continuous story, like jumping between all these different characters and stuff. Of course, the Low Men in Yellow Coats is probably my favorite, but just overall, like the fact that King is able to kind of like connect them all, it kind of reminds me of like with musicians when they do like a concept album where like each song, like it's all telling one story. Like Pink Floyd's The Wall is that way. Like the whole record is kind of telling one singular story versus like each song being its own self-contained story. That's the kind of the way that Hearts in Atlantis feels for me, and it's just a wonderful story. And yeah, also I think underrated adaptation with Anthony Hopkins and the
really good movie.
Anton Yelkin.
Yeah.
So now we can go to number 5.
My number 5.
So your number 5 right there, and then I just deleted something else probably. Make sure I got the right pedal. And your number 5?
Wastelands.
All right.
The coming together of the quartet, Jake coming back into the story fully. Roland's insanity and everything is just, it's so great to see Roland, Jake, Susanna, and Eddie all together. We get the introduction of the second most beloved character in all of Dark Tower Palaver's history, and Oi.
Random flag?
No, Oi was voted the second most behind Eddie by 1 vote.
That was all rigged, I'm sure, somehow.
Probably.
Otherwise, Flag would have won.
No. Flag didn't even make the list. So, there's that
False.
going for us. No, I mean, it's true. And then the introduction of Blaine, Ludd, was insane. The river crossing is such a great scene and everything like that.
Winston and his birthday.
Gasher and the TikTok man.
blue-
Roland keeping
The
his
blue fire, lightning teeth.
the promise of Roland not to, forsake Jake, and all of us going, oh no, not again.
Yeah.
Every single one of us like, oh God, not again.
Including Roland.
Including, would I let him die? That kind of thing. So seeing Eddie and Susanna start to become gunslingers.
Rocky's right. The
everything.
bridge attack scene.
Stop it.
Oh, I knew what you meant, Rocky. I knew full well what you were getting at there.
Also, I mean, it's got to be called out is that the Wastelands is the first time that you get like full on confirmation that Martin/Walter is Flag.
Yeah.
Like,
also, I feel like this is really where the quartet is truly formed completely.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, because Jake's missing, so it's like in book 2, even by the end of it, it's just like until you get to like his drawing, like it's not the complete quartet, and it's like some of those like scenes you love of them just around the campfire and stuff are ones you see in this book. So, yeah, definitely good stuff. All right, so now we are going to
your number 5.
my number 5, which is The Dead Zone.
Not surprising.
Yeah, it's just one I love. I can't wait to reread it for our Patreon here fairly soon.
In this next month, yeah.
Yeah, I got to finish The Two Towers, which I'm reading right now. But then after that, I'll pause Lord of the Rings to go over to The Dead Zone. I can't wait to revisit. This is just an incredible book. I remember this being like edge of my seat stuff. It's just, I love the whole premise of like you touch someone and like you see the like some future about them, something about the future. Usually it's like their fate. It's almost like it reminds me of the Goosebumps story with the kid that had the camera that would show like his friends dying in horrible ways and they ended up dying that way. I would have fun with a camera like that.
Oh my God.
It kind of feels like I mean, of course, this came first, so whatever. But as a young Tad, experienced Goosebumps first, and Dead Zone later. But it's just great. I love the kind of the missing love story where it's like the ships that missed in the night. Like they had a love story early, and then they just kind of drift apart, and then like never are able to reconnect and stuff.
David says in the chat, the Dead Zone is so tight, no filler.
Yes, exactly. It just feels like edge of your seat. And Greg Stilson, he's on our most hated list.
There's a reason.
First scene, him stomping a dog to death.
Oh, man.
That's what a way to introduce a villain.
Yeah, no kidding. Kind of just like with Pennywise and Georgie, just like from 1 to 10 right off the bat.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and jump on over to number 4. Did I read? Yeah, I did. Okay, Wastelands for Chris. I want to make sure I'm not losing track here. So number 4 for everyone here, we got Captain David has Wizard and Glass. So
Okay.
another Wizard and Glass mention. Gotta love that.
John from Buffalo also has Wizard and Glass.
Yeah, that's true. Wizard and Glass from John and the Buffalo, and then Doom McKee from Chris in the UK.
Yep.
And then Wolves of the Kala from Chris from Australia. He says, whenever I get to this book, it puts a smile on my face, and I get excited about the tower all over again. I just love the characters in this book and the township of the Call of Brim Sturges. I'd happily pick this one up any time and give it a spin. It's like coming home. So,
Yeah.
that's good stuff.
David asked in the chat, I got here late, what are y'all discussing? Top 10 King books, but the Dark Tower can't be one entry together. They have to be individuals.
I'm going to break them up. Yep. So, and now we are moving over to your number 4. Find the button here. And this one is actually going to be multiple. Yeah, so it is on my list as well. I'm still fucking things up with my hotkey, but whatever. And it is...
This is your number 3.
My number 3.
Okay, 11/22/63 is my number 4, your number 3.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I honestly expected a little bit lower for yours, though.
Really?
So, yeah.
I mean, you know me. I've always been a fan of this,
love
or not
the
fan.
Jake.
I've always been obsessed with this Kennedy assassination. So it's like King and Kennedy. It's like you got your peanut butter and my chocolate. You got my chocolate and your peanut butter. Like this is just the perfect merging of things. And then like I love time travel. I grew up as a sci-fi kid, so this just felt like almost craft made for me. It's kind of like like hardcore history doing an Alexander the Great thing. It's just
dude, I said that the other day. I was like, dude, it's absolutely going to be your favorite hardcore history.
Yeah,
it's just, well, it's not done. I'm like, I don't fucking care. It's Alexander the Great. It's you, and it's Alexander the Great, and it's hardcore history. Like that's all we need to know. It's going to be your favorite.
On multi-layers, that's the way this book felt. And then like you mentioned earlier, if you wanted to debate the greater love story, Wizard and Glass, this is probably the only thing that can compare with it.
It's the only one.
It's great, and I also love history, so just kind of seeing good and bad, what did it look like in 1958 through 1963,
the segregation bathroom and everything, and all that stuff,
as well as like the more simple, like, there's good and bad, like there's simplicity of like certain things, less like whatever.
The cost of everything was so cheap, but also at the same time,
you got segregation, you got like chauvinism, you got like just like a lot of like shitty things too. So I love it because it's like show it warts and all, because I think that everyone loves to just like rose tinted glasses everything with history, and so that King does a really good job of actually showing like
I think this book does a great job at showing that yes, the past would be fun to live in, but at the same time it would also fucking suck.
Yeah.
And that's what I think a lot of people forget, where it's like, oh, if you could go live in a previous decade, which would it be? And I'd be like, none of them.
Yeah.
Like I've gotten too used to the 2020s to go back to even the 2010s.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be things that don't exist that were introduced that I'm like, this is so fucking great. I can't believe we haven't done this before, and everything like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we were just talking about it yesterday, driving. You told me that the United States made it so that backup cameras are required.
Yeah.
I had no idea that became a thing and everything, and I'm like, that's so fucking smart.
Yeah.
Going back to the 1950s and having to drive a boat, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, good Lord.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Indeed.
So, no air conditioning.
Yeah. That's how the West was won, as air conditioning.
That's right.
But as mentioned on one of our most hated is the husband from this. There's some like
John Clayton. Yeah.
There's some lovable characters. There's some hateable characters. And then just the overall story. I feel like I feel like it really like takes its time, which I love, because it's all about the love story and like the kind of getting to know like the past. But then like when it finally gets to the end, it feels like a roller coaster. It feels like you can't get off, and it's just like whatever. And then like the view of the future without Kennedy is like incredible. I love that, again, as a sci-fi kid. Good.
And there's a line that I just came across in Wolves of the Kala, or is the Song of Susanna, where the quartet's talking about, well, what if we go and change things in the timeline and we make things worse? And I'm like, oh my God, that's how we got the idea from 11/22/63.
Yeah.
Here he is writing this in like 99, 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
And then, 10 years later, he comes out with 11/22/63, where, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Indeed. Let's go ahead and jump on over to number
3.
For the...
Oh, no, you're number 4.
Oh, yeah, my number 4.
Keep forgetting yours.
I know. What the hell's going on here? All right, my number 4 is The Shining.
Yeah.
I love this book. I've talked about it a lot throughout the history of the show. I feel like outside of The Dark Tower and The Stand, I think this is probably my most reread of all my King books. I feel like I've probably read this six to eight times.
Yeah.
Nothing else comes close except for Dark Tower and The Stand for me. So like, if nothing else, that proves it. Like, there's something about this book that draws me back in. So good stuff. Absolutely fucking terrifying. I love the Kubrick film. I grew up on it, but I do think the King book is far superior. And it's an incredible book. So
yeah.
Gotta love that. So then we got number 3. We got The Gunslinger for Captain Daveman. We got Wizard and Glass from Chris in the UK. We got The Long Walk from John from Buffalo. And Chris from Australia has Duma Key. Definitely not a surprise there.
Yeah.
He says, I find this one so nuanced and mature in its writing. I don't think any King book since his accident has demonstrated such a high level of writing. The feeling of foreboding as Edgar gradually paints the series of girl and ship pictures builds to a phenomenal climax, and I really want to see the picture in front of me. Fortunately, King does such an epic job of providing a description of them that our mind's eye can fill in the blanks. And of course, Wireman is one of King's best and most lovable characters ever. I just love this book. I need to read this one still. So, good stuff. So now we got your number
3.
Let's go ahead and push that. All right, and it is
Wolves of the Kala. my favorite Dark Tower book is Wolves of the Kala.
yeah.
It's so funny too because I've never seen what's the Japanese version of the Magnificent Seven? Seven Samurai.
Seven Samurai.
I've never seen Seven Samurai, and I've never even seen Magnificent Seven.
Really?
Never seen it. Fucking love this book.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this book. The coming into their own for Eddie, Jake, and especially Roland, seeing him like develop a weakness with like the arthritis and everything like that. I forgot how much that makes Roland human to me, which before is still like Wizard and Glass started the human. Oh my god, like look how much this guy has suffered. No wonder he's a robot.
Yeah.
But then to see him later in life with like the dry twist coming and everything and putting the bomb in front of us that Roland's got arthritis and everything. But at the same time, this story of the Kalas, I love the Kalas.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, okay, you can go to one area of the Dark Tower and you'll be perfectly safe. You can visit and talk to the people and everything. Dude, I'd fucking choose the Kalas like that. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons would be is so that I could go kick Evan Took in the butt. Fucking hate that guy, that son of a bitch, you know? Andy, the messenger robot, many other functions. One of the things that I absolutely love about Wolves of the Kala, and I know we're short on time, but I have to say it, I fucking love just how dense the people of the Kalas are because they're just so innocent.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell would you not recognize that Andy is talking about things that came thousands of years after he was created?
Yeah.
Like, how would he have had the programming to not talk about the wolves? Like,
Yeah.
like fucking come on, you know, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. But then Roland dancing the Kamala,
Yeah.
Jake finding out about Ben Slightman and all
Yeah.
that turmoil, and then one of my absolute favorite scenes in the entire Dark Tower series, Jake calling Roland on his bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely fucking putting him in his place and being like, yeah, motherfucker, stop keeping secrets.
Yeah.
Like, it's wrong. I'm going to listen to you, but you're wrong. And Roland being like, God damn, this kid's right.
Yeah.
So, that's Wolves of the Kala.
Indeed. All right. So number 2 for the email crew, we've
Yep.
got Captain David has It. Chris from the UK has Wastelands. And then John has It as well. It's got some matching there.
Look at that.
On the ends there. And then Chris from Australia has The Shining. He says, I've just this evening finished reading this one for only the second time, and it's just as good as I remembered it. What an achievement to write this book so early in his career. He reimagined the classic haunted house story, but expanded it to an entire haunted hotel, stealing from Shirley Jackson, The Haunting of Hill House, but adding so much more to it. And then, so now we've got your number 2.
Do their number ones.
Okay, let's
Do their number ones, then we can finish off with my number 2 and your number 1.
All right, so their number ones. Captain David has The Stand. Chris in the UK has Hearts in Atlantis. That's an awesome pick.
High. That's awesome.
And then John from Buffalo has 11/22/63.
Hey.
And then Chris from Australia has It.
Yes.
It says, I am still blown away by the achievement of the writing of It to weave together 2 timelines so intimately that by the final climax, each section of each timeline is joined together with a half-finished sentence is completely genius. The characters are so lovable, and this is the most relatable and beautiful coming-of-age story I've ever read. And there's some genuinely scary bits in this story, most prominently the effect it has on the town of Derry itself, and in particular the adults who are either made to turn a blind eye to the horrors going on in their town or else directly participating in those horrors. It just corrupts all it possesses. So, yeah, that's a good one there. So what do we got?
I'm shocked.
What?
Not a single one of our, unless I'm blind, not a single one of our emailers put The Stand on their list. The 4 emailers didn't have The Stand anywhere on their list.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's...
Oh, wait, no.
Nope.
Captain Daveman has it as his number 1. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to be like,
Yeah.
4
yeah.
4 fans put out a top 10 King novel list, and not one of them had The Stand on there?
Yeah, so, yeah, Stan...
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So now we got my number 2 is not up there yet.
Yeah, your number 2 is Wizard and Glass.
Oh, yeah, it's your number 2.
My number 2 is not up there, and your number 1, which of course makes sense, is The Stand.
Yeah, The Stand. So, and it's like we just mentioned. I mean, I've talked about it at length. This is just I read this yearly.
Yep.
This story is just it feels to me like coming to old friends and meeting them again. It's Randall Flagg's main event. This is probably his biggest.
Yeah.
showing off. But there's just 100 wonderful characters in this story. I love them all. Tom Cullen's Christmas thing with Stu is incredible.
It's such a heartwarming scene.
Yeah, Nick and Tom is
Kojak.
great. Yeah, Kojak. There's just so much about this. It's just an incredible thing. I love
Notice he didn't say anyone from Vegas because
Trashy.
they're all evil.
No, Trashy. Trashy's incredible.
Trashy's not from Vegas. Trashy's from Indiana.
Lloyd's. I like Lloyd too. Lloyd's awesome.
Scumbag mass murdering Lloyd.
He never pokerized anyone, sir.
Absolutely, he did.
No, it was all Poke's idea. That's what he told me.
That's what he told you.
I just love this book. It's so great. It is just very It's the Tolkien epic for Stephen King.
Even though Dark Tower was supposed to be that, The Stand ended up being it. I feel more so.
Yeah. It's just incredible. I have also thought this thing on the cover here. I've thought about it would be a good tattoo idea.
Oh, the White Knight and the black demon.
Yeah, that's such a cool cover. But yeah,
that's really and only real fans would know that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a little bit more obscure.
Yeah,
but
I think you should get the guy with the golden tooth.
Yeah,
that alternate cover, the newer cover.
Yeah. Anything else I missed in the chat? I think Dave threw up.
Dave threw his list in here. I don't know if it's from 10 to 1 or 1 to 10. From a Buick 8, The Dead Zone, Dolores Claiborne, Wizard and Glass, Wolves of the Kala, The Stand, Salem's Lot, The Long Walk, and 11/22/63. And then he also mentioned later, Salem's Lot.
Yeah. Good stuff. I thought it was fun. I know it was a challenge. I'm glad that no one has killed me yet.
Hashtag Tad is terrible. I will be punching him a couple times off screen for you guys.
But
no violence on the show.
But I think it was fun. Oh, and then also I do have. I know we're
stats.
Yeah, I think I do. Where the fuck did I not? Maybe I didn't make a slide. Maybe I'll have to do that. We'll have to do that next time. I created the damn thing, but I don't think I actually pasted it into the damn slideshow. So
just put it on social media. Check out all our social medias.
I'll throw it in the show notes. I can just give you because I do have it on my screen. I just don't have it to share. Here it is with the list. Number ones get 10 points. Number 10s get 1 point.
Yep.
And then I calculated it all up. Number 1 was It.
Yeah.
With 42.
I mean, my number 1, your number 7, and then 2, 1, and 2.
Number 2, Wizard and Glass with 40 points.
Hey.
11/22/63 at number 3 with 33. The Stand is 4 with 29. The Wastelands with 24 points at number 5. Hearts and Atlantis number 6 with 23. 7 is The Shining with 21. 8 is Duma Key with 15. 9 is Wolves of the Kala with 15. And 10 is Green Mile with 11. If you wanted to call that other one a tie with 15s, then you could say Drawing It for the 3 would be potentially number 10 with 10 points. So that is the top 10 using the old arithmetic there.
Yeah.
But yeah, good fun. Love this stuff. And that will wrap the show. We will, of course, hit the outro stuff as we always do. But next time, join us because we are coming back, hopefully, to get some RIA with a book club. We haven't done a book club since the end of 24, so it feels long overdue. Can't wait to jump back in and let's see what Ermot and
Stop it.
RIA are up to.
You stop
we
it.
still haven't seen any corner licking yet, so we still got to find that. If you want to subscribe to us, find us on any podcasting service of your choice. Stream us on Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, or not Stitcher anymore. Sorry, that doesn't exist anymore. Amazon Music, Audible, Spotify, anywhere that podcasts are sold, you can find Dark Tower
Sold.
Palaver. Remember that back in the day? Wherever quality products are sold, like type thing. And then if you want to join us for the live streams, find us over here at youtube.com/Dark Tower Palaver. You can find all the old live streams as well, going back quite a ways. The show notes will be at darktowerpalaver.com. Also go to darktowerpalaver.com/MarchInsanity to get all the March Insanity stuff that we unveiled in this episode. And then if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. We just had our monthly hangout. And of course the Discord server, you got all that there. Keep your eyes open for March 1st. This is the last roundtable until that. March 1st, the voting starts. Again, darktowerpalaver.com/MarchInsanity. Get your votes in. I'll have it all over social media as well. Let's get those two brackets decided. Then if you want to contact the show, Peter can let you know how to do that.
Best way to reach us is show@darktowerpalaver.com. Email us there. And then we have our threads and Instagram. It's Dark Tower Palaver, all one word, no spaces. Our Blue Sky is at darktowerpalaver.bsky.social. Our Twitter is at darktowerpod. That's at darktowerpod. Our Facebook is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And then pick up some merch. It's tpublic.com/users/darktowerpalaver. get a hashtag Tad is terrible sticker or shirt.
Because I made you guys do this list
Exactly.
where you couldn't use Dark
Because you
Towers
are
1.
evil. How dare you?
But yeah, we will see you guys in a fortnight for the next Wizard and Glass. We're chugging right along. We're now past the zenith. We're now on the downhill slope, which means that Charyu Tree is coming up quick. Sadly, I don't know. We might hit it this year. So if not, it'll be very early next year would be my guess. So join us then. If not, we will see you. Join us then. If you also have our other show where you have in a few minutes. Join us over there. We're talking some John Williams.
Yeah, one of Tad's all-time favorite things.
Gotta love that. So until then, we'll sign off as we always do by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
Boy. All right. See you guys all later. You guys are awesome. Thanks for being part of the chat and being part of the conversation. Thanks if you sent the list in or gave us things in the thing here. You guys are awesome. We'll see you guys in a fortnight.
Bye, everyone.